What is going on, guys? We are live on YouTube, about to be live on TikTok. Week 17 is here. It is Championship Sunday, guys. If you got to Championship Sunday, let's go. We're going to get through every single question that we possibly can. There's a lot to talk about. A lot of exciting storylines going on in the NFL. We're going to be talking about, too, the playoff implications in a lot of these games, because, man, are there playoff implications in the real NFL today. We got some early questions posted here. Got to give my love and respect to everyone who's hopping on the stream early. So I'll try to get to these early questions. Do you like Antonio Brown or T. Higgins this week? I like both of them. I like both Antonio Brown and T. Higgins this week. But, guys, don't bench Antonio Brown. You can't bench Antonio Brown. And if you come to the YouTube live, we're live on TikTok and YouTube right now. Let me pull up my top 10 wide receivers. You're not going to see T. Higgins in this top 10. You're not going to see T. Higgins in this top 10, but you are going to see Antonio Brown in this top 10. And Antonio Brown picked up an ankle injury 2 days ago that made him questionable for this game. But he's playing, and he's going to be the top target for Tom Brady in this game today. It's going to be him and Gronk. Mike Evans is also playing, but supposedly he's only going to see a limited role. I'm not really sure what that means, but it does give me even more confidence to start Antonio Brown. So, yeah, I'm not starting T. Higgins over Antonio Brown. I do like T. Higgins a lot, though. He's been balling. And, yes, thank you for calling this out. My name's not Walter. Classic mistake. My name is Sam. Don't worry about it. All right, we got a good question here. Brandon's asking about Rashad Penny, Deonta Foreman, and everyone's going to spell this guy's name wrong today, Ogunbowale. That's definitely not how you spell it. It might be, but I don't think it is. I think it's an O. I think you were close, actually. I like Ogunbowale today. He's going to be starting for the Jaguars at running back against the Patriots. The Patriots defense, the weakness for the Patriots defense all season has been against the run. And Ogunbowale had like 17 touches last week. He played like 85% of the snaps for, just the very depleted Jacksonville Jaguars. When the Jaguars, guys, zoom back to when I was doing best ball drafts in May. We had Travis Etienne on the Jaguars. We had, obviously, James Robinson, who tore his Achilles last week, and the corpse of Carlos Hyde was bouncing around in the lineup a lot this season. All three of them are out, and I think they're out for the rest of the season. So Ogunbowale is going to play a lot today against a bad Patriots run defense. And this is also a game I don't think the Patriots are going to be very afraid to let the Jaguars run. The Patriots are massive favorites in this game. Let me pull up my picks against the spread. By the way, we went 3 for 3 in the locks against the spread last week. I have a couple locks today, at least one lock today. We're up to 64% against the spread on the locks now. But I think the Patriots are going to be okay letting Ogunbowale run. That being said, I still think you got to start Rashad Penny over Ogunbowale. But I would start Ogunbowale over Foreman. So I would rank these guys Penny, Ogunbowale, then Foreman. Penny has a really good matchup too. Jared saying, you got to toss up the DraftKings lineup. Been clutching. Yeah, the last 2 DraftKings lineups, guys, have both cashed easily. It hasn't even been close. And I made 21 DraftKings lineups today. I maxed out the $3.20 entry, and then I'm still in my head-to-head contest. I'm actually in the semifinals of my DraftKings head-to-head contest because we've been absolutely balling on DraftKings the last couple of weeks. So if you come to the YouTube live, we're live on TikTok and YouTube, you can see my DraftKings lineup on the screen right now. And there's a lot of good DraftKings plays. I promise, guys, I know this is championship weekend. I'm going to try to get to as many start-sit questions as I can. I'll be touching on every single game and every single key player over the next 2 hours. So stick around. I promise we're going to get to basically everything. But I wanted to start here because I think this is a super interesting DraftKings main slate and FanDuel. I think that the main slate in Week 17 is very exciting because there's a lot of people who don't play DFS throughout the year, but then in Week 17 and 18 they do because they're out of their fantasy leagues. All right, so this is the general strategy for me. There's a few guys that I have in almost every single one of my 21 lineups. First of all, I'm trusting Trey Lance today. On DraftKings, you have to play him. On FanDuel, you don't. He's priced much higher on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, he's basically the cheapest quarterback that you can find. And he's a top 10 quarterback this week. There's really no way around it. I've ranked number 7 this week. I think he's going to go over 300 yards against the Texans. Guys, the last time we saw Trey Lance, and I know some of you are considering starting Trey Lance in your finals today, and I would. The last time we saw Trey Lance, he was up against the Arizona Cardinals, and it was week 5. It's like 3 months ago. It was like 2.5 months ago. Week 5 was the last time that we saw Trey Lance. And in that game, he struggled as a passer. I think he threw for like 180 yards, but he had no touchdowns, only 52% completion percentage. He threw an interception, but he rushed for 89 yards on 15 carries. And a lot of those carries were designed runs. As you guys know, I go back, I rewatch every single game at least once. And I went back this week and I rewatched that Trey Lance game. And if you are designing runs for Trey Lance is going to dominate in fantasy football. You want quarterbacks that run in fantasy. So he's priced so low. He's going to be probably the most owned quarterback on the slate. I don't really care. I'm playing him. If I'm not playing Trey Lance, though, I'm probably going to go with Huntley for the Ravens, or I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts against Washington. I'm going to play one of the 3 rushing QBs. Those are the quarterbacks I'm considering, but Trey Lance is the cheapest by a considerable amount. He's my number 7 ranked quarterback. So I'm playing Trey Lance. At running back, I'm rocking with JT today, Jonathan Taylor, the highest priced running back. And I'm going to be able to do this because I'm paying down for Trey Lance, and then we'll get to what I'm doing at tight end. I'm punting tight end this week too because I want to start Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's over under rushing yards today, 105.5. Guys, he's going over that. He's going to go over that in this game. This is going to be a game where Jonathan Taylor makes the MVP conversation even more crazy because the Raiders are horrible against running backs. They're a bottom 3 team in the NFL against running backs this season. The Colts are massive favorites in this game. I think they're 3.5 point favorites, at least in this game. It might have been 6.5 in this game. Let me pull this up. So I'm rocking with JT. He is. So I simulate each week 10,000 times, and Jonathan Taylor scored under 10 points in 2% of those simulations. He scored over 25 points in over 35% of the simulations. He's just an absolute lock. So I'm playing Jonathan Taylor. This is why daily fantasy is fun, by the way. We get to play Jonathan Taylor every week. Like, why would we not play Jonathan Taylor every week? I know he's very expensive, but he's worth the price. He's worth the price. All right, so I'm going with Trey Lance, Jonathan Taylor. I'm also rocking with David Montgomery, and I'm going to stack David Montgomery with the Bears defense against the Giants. And David Montgomery, he hasn't been very efficient this season. He hasn't been the league-winning running back he was last year, but he has been consistent, and he has seen significant volume consistently. And he gets the Giants today, who apparently are playing some combination of Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm, like just brutal for the Giants offensively. And the Giants somehow offensively have like even less talent than they began with. Darius Slayton is out. Sterling Shepard is out. Kadarius Toney is out. Even John Ross is out. It's literally Kenny Golladay and practice squad players and Saquon Barkley and Evan Ingram. Like, that is the offense today. I do think Kenny Golladay is an interesting play in tournaments, but I mean, man, it's tough to get excited about this offense at all, which is why I'm playing the Bears defense stacked with David Montgomery. I think he's averaging over 20 touches a game over his last 2 games. And I'd be starting David Montgomery and the Bears defense in your fantasy championships as well. Okay, moving on. A.J. Brown. Guys, if anyone that watched that Thursday night game last week, it's pretty clear A.J. Brown is back. But not only is it clear that A.J. Brown is back, the Titans are going to throw the ball to A.J. Brown at least 10 times, minimum 10 times in this game. The Titans are the type of team that feed their best players. There's no Derrick Henry. There's no Julio Jones in this game. And it's a game against not a very good secondary. The Dolphins secondary over the last 2 months has ranked bottom 10 when you adjust for strength of opponent. A.J. Brown's going to get fed the ball, and when A.J. Brown gets fed, guys, good things happen. He had 31.5 fantasy points last week. Do not make your lineups without A.J. Brown. So I think this is a very good core to start with. Trey Lance, Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, A.J. Brown. I'm able to pay up for all these guys because I'm completely punting the tight end position. I'm starting a tight end that I quite literally and honestly had never heard of 10 days ago. I had never heard of this guy. But he's the starting tight end for the Chargers today. And his name is Steven Anderson. And if you knew Steven Anderson before 10 days ago, I'm very impressed, seriously. But Steven Anderson, there's no Donald Parham today, and there's no Jared Cook. So he is going to be an every down tight end for the Chargers. And he basically, if Parham if Anderson just falls into the end zone today, then probably all my DFS lineups will cash. But even if he scores 0 points, it's fine because he's priced at the minimum. This is how we're paying up for all these absolute studs. So I'm just punting the tight end position. If you don't punt the tight end position, it's going to be hard to fit all these guys in your lineup because, again, Steven Anderson's minimum priced on DraftKings this week. But if you don't punt the tight end position, then you should be looking at Dallas Goedert against Washington. He had his career best game against Washington literally 2 weeks ago. Or Rob Gronkowski against the Jets. Like Gronk and Tom Brady have just owned the Jets for, it feels like, a decade. So those are the other tight ends I'd go with. I mean, there's a lot of good tight end options on the slate today. We have Kittle. Let me pull up my top 10 tight ends of the week in the YouTube live. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, guys. And I'm talking through my DraftKings lineup right now, but you can literally come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio and just see it on the screen as I'm talking through it, as well as my top 10 rankings for every single position. So come to the YouTube live. And if you are watching live on YouTube, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. But guys, there's a lot of good tight end options. It's an interesting week to punt the tight end position. Travis Kelce is my number 1 ranked tight end. Mark Andrews is right behind him. Mark Andrews has been balling, man. And Mark Andrews, I think I read on Twitter today, he could be the first tight end to have the 4 stretch game that he's about to have. If he goes over 100 yards today, he's going to make history. But we got George Kittle and Gronk in the slate today too. I mean, all 4 of those guys have really high upside. All right, let's get back to some of the comments. So to fill out the DraftKings lineup, I'm rocking with Christian Kirk, who's the number 1 receiver for the Cardinals today. And I don't want to make a single lineup without a Cardinals or Cowboys player. Like, you need at least one Arizona Cardinals or Dallas Cowboys player in your DraftKings lineup. It's the game with the highest over-under of the week. So you got to have someone from that game. And for me, it's Christian Kirk, the top receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. I do think that the Cardinals could beat the Cowboys today. I was actually surprised how big of underdogs that they were in this game. There's no DeAndre Hopkins in this game. AJ Green has been dealing with injuries. He's playing, but he has not been very efficient or productive, and he has not seen very, very much opportunity in the last few weeks. So I like Christian Kirk today too for the Cardinals. And then I'm rocking with DJ Moore. Sam Darnold's starting for the Panthers against the Saints. And if you guys have been following me all season, I'm not scared of the Saints secondary. They've been a bottom 10 secondary all season. And DJ Moore has had a strong connection with Sam Darnold all year. He actually had a strong connection with Cam Newton too. He's had at least 7 targets in every single game this season. So DJ Moore is very safe. And then the last player in the lineup is Devin Singletary. The Bills are double-digit favorites against the Falcons. I think they're over 2. They're like 3-score favorites, like 14.5 or 15.5, something ridiculous like that. Singletary's played over 75% of the snaps for the Bills each of the last 2 weeks. He made what was a pretty muddled backfield pretty clear, actually. It's Devin Singletary's backfield. And then Zach Moss, Matt Breida are basically switching off based on, what the coaches think in a given matchup. All right. That's the DraftKings lineup. Good luck with it. Feel free to tinker with it, of course. And if you have been cashing in DraftKings and FanDuel, you got to go to the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store, and you got to join the winners wall. Get on the winners wall today. When you win your matchup today, you got to get on the winners wall in the WalterPicks app. I've spent over 10,000 hours of my life building the WalterPicks app. It's really what powers most of my insights into fantasy. It's completely free to download on the iOS and Google Play Store. So try it out. And if you win, let us know by submitting the story to the winner's wall, and you'll be featured in the app. All right, let's get to some of the questions in the chat right now. Guys, we're live on YouTube and TikTok right now. If you're watching live on TikTok for the first time, hit the follow button. If you're watching on YouTube for the first time, hit the subscribe button. I do appreciate it. This is Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm seeing a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown questions in the TikTok live and in the YouTube live. Amon-Ra St. Brown's tough to bench. He's tough to bench this week. I mean, he's been balling out. He's been a top 10 wide receiver over the last 3 weeks. Like, it's not easy to be benching Amon-Ra St. Brown. Tim Boyle is starting again for the Lions, which I don't think is good news for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I don't think it changes all that much. I would be starting DK Metcalf, though, against the Lions versus Amon-Ra St. Brown against the Seahawks. I do think Amon-Ra St. Brown is safer, though. I do. Amon-Ra St. Brown, guys, he's gone over 15 points in 4 consecutive weeks. He's gone over 15 points in 4 consecutive weeks. And DK Metcalf has been really just the definition of boom or bust over the last month and a half now. He has at least 8 catches in all 4 of those games too. I changed my mind. I'm starting Amon-Ra St. Brown over DK Metcalf. Huntley or Lance? Yeah, I'm going Trey Lance over Huntley. Maxwell. I'm going Trey Lance over Huntley. It's a better matchup for Trey Lance. The Texans have the league worst rushing defense. And Trey Lance had over 7 designed runs the last time he played, and that was in week 5. And the 49ers themselves, Kyle Shanahan himself, has said that Trey Lance has improved in practice. So, I mean, you got to rock with Lance over Huntley. You got to do it. I'll pull up my top 10 QBs again. Actually, let's do the running backs first. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. You can see my top 10 rankings every position. And I can also pull up your question on the stream much easier. I do appreciate it. All right. Sam, what's up, man? Thanks so much for helping me all year and for the awesome app. Thanks, man. You and the app helped me get to the championship. Joey, that's what I'm talking about, man. Now, this is where we got to finish strong, though. It means nothing if you don't win the championship. All right, one question. Lockett, DJ Moore, St. Brown, Mike Williams, pick 2 in a PPR league. This one's not easy. It's not easy. Again, it's not easy to bench Amon-Ra St. Brown today. It's really not. The Seahawks secondary is not scary. He's had at least 8 catches, 4 straight games, at least 15 fantasy points, 4 straight games. The Lions secondary has actually performed better in terms of fantasy points this season than the Seahawks secondary. I don't feel super strongly that the Lions secondary is better than the Seahawks. They're both pretty bad, though. I think I would honestly go with DJ Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think those are the 2 safest guys. I would be pretty surprised if either of those guys go under 10 points. And I still think they have a pretty high ceiling, too. I think Lockett and Mike Williams have a slightly higher ceiling, but a much lower floor. So that's what I would do. I'd go DJ Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Green Bay defense or Giants defense? Yeah, you got to go Green Bay. We have who's starting for the Vikings? Is it Sean Mannion? Sean Mannion starting for the Vikings? I mean, brutal. That's just brutal. I honestly Sean Mannion and Mike Glennon are both going to be playing this week. What a world. What a world. Sean Mannion and Mike Glennon are going to be playing real snaps in real NFL games today. Yeah, you got to pick the defenses against those guys. Thoughts on starting Agumba, Wale, and Patterson and going wide receiver heavy in DFS? Yeah, Thomas, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I think that there's a bunch of running backs you can pay down for on DraftKings and FanDuel today. Agumba, Wale is one of them. I don't feel great about the ceiling for Agumba, Wale or Patterson, but I do think their floor is pretty good, and I do think they can return value if they score a touchdown in their games this week. And there's so many good receivers to pay up for. You got Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, Antonio Brown. All those guys are going off today. So I don't hate it. But I do want to play Jonathan Taylor too. Jonathan Taylor to me is a little bit different than all of the other running backs. Rashad Penny, Lenny, or Elijah Mitchell. Yes. Rashard, Lenny, or Elijah Mitchell. Yes. I don't think Leonard Fournette's playing today. Actually, I know he's not. Ronald Jones is definitely startable, though, against the league bottom 5 rushing defense for the Jets. So definitely start Ronald Jones. I think Ronald Jones is scoring at least 1 touchdown today. He's going over 50 yards with ease. Ronald Jones can have a horrible game and still score 15 points against the Jets. Going back to that question, Elijah Mitchell. There's a lot of Elijah Mitchell questions because Elijah Mitchell hasn't played since week 13. But when he was playing, he was a running back 1. And guys, you need to start Elijah Mitchell. There's really no way around it. I'm pretty sure he's in my top 10 running backs. If he's not, he's probably number 11. Yeah, he is. He's number 10. He's my number 10 ranked running back. Again, you can come see the top 10 rankings for every position on the YouTube live. But yeah, you got to start Elijah Mitchell. It's against the Texans. We've been through this week after week after week. Whatever running back's playing the Texans, you start. It's that simple. And then when it's the 49ers and Elijah Mitchell, even if there's some risk with the injury, and there is some risk with the injury, you got to start him. He could get 10 carries and score 20 points in this game. But he could also get 25 carries and score 40 points in this game. That is within the range of outcomes for Elijah Mitchell. Start Elijah Mitchell. Definitely start Elijah Mitchell. Michael Carter or Barkley. Yeah, both guys are very interesting this week because both guys, like, we should be able to lock in. Both guys we should be able to lock in for a minimum 15 touches. But they're both on teams that are going to get crushed this week, which is absolutely a ball, like, demolished. The Buccaneers, I think, are 17-point favorites against the Jets. Let me pull up the picks against the spread again. I think they're 14-point favorites against the Jets. I'm taking them, by the way, against the spread of 14-point favorites against the Jets. But Michael Carter is going to get the ball a lot. And the Jets are another one of these teams, like the Giants. The Jets and the Giants, very comparable right now. The Jets and the Giants are both without all of their receivers. No Jamison Crowder, no Elijah Moore. There is no Corey Davis as well for the Jets. They're going to have to feed Michael Carter the ball. He's the most talented player they have on offense. So even if the Jets are getting crushed, when the Jets are getting crushed, and even though they're up against the Buccaneers, who have been the number 1 or number 2 running defense this season, Michael Carter is getting a minimum of 15 touches, and I think he can do okay with those because Michael Carter is really good. So, like, I would probably still play Saquon over Michael Carter, but in daily fantasy, Michael Carter is significantly less than Saquon, and I would lean Michael Carter over Saquon in DFS. But in championship weekend, you gotta play Saquon over Michael Carter. You gotta play Saquon over Michael Carter. I think that's the bottom line. Appreciate the Android app. Let's go. Yeah, we're live on Android, guys. This is not a drill. We finally got live on Android, and I'm glad that we're appreciating Edmonds or Carter. Yeah, you got to start Edmonds over Carter too. Yeah, so it looks like James Conner is going to play. That's not confirmed. He's one of the few guys we're still waiting on to hear if he's going to play or not. But I think either way, you got to feel good about Chase Edmonds. Like, we're definitely going to feel better about Chase Edmonds if James Conner doesn't play. But even if James Conner plays, Edmonds is going to be locked into the pass-catching role in a game that has the highest over-under of the week, in a game where the Cardinals are underdogs for one of the first times this season. So for all those reasons, I'd like Chase Edmonds. I think his ceiling is really high. And even if James Conner plays, he's still battling through an injury. So I expect James Conner to play, but I still like Chase Edmonds. I just dropped down that last question that I saw on the YouTube live. I saw it in the TikTok live actually as well. The question was Elijah Mitchell or Deontay Johnson. Yeah, I'm going Elijah Mitchell there. Again, don't bench Elijah Mitchell against the Texans. The worst rush defense in the league this season. It's a perfect matchup for Elijah Mitchell. It is. Hey, Sam, I made it to the championship thanks to your help. That's what I'm talking about, man. This is the day that we've all been working towards. Should I start Ronald Jones, Michael Carter, or Edmonds if Conner is out? Yeah, so if this is a PPR league, honestly, even if it's not a PPR league, I think you got to go Ronald Jones. I think you got to go Ronald Jones over Michael Carter and Chase Edmonds this week against the Jets. Ronald Jones has the best matchup of these three. Like, I would not start Carter over Edmonds or Ronald Jones. But he's just got the best matchup. Ronald Jones is a 14-point favorite against the Jets, who have been not a good matchup. They're not a good matchup. Yes, I'm starting Ronald Jones for sure there. Sam, we need some help. Pick 2, Deontay Johnson, Keenan Allen, Jalen Waddle, also Aaron Jones or Ronald Jones. Yeah, I'm not benching Aaron Jones. I'm not benching Aaron Jones this week against the Vikings. The Packers are big favorites against the Vikings. This is not a week I will be benching Aaron Jones. I'd start Aaron Jones over Ronald Jones. For the other question, I'm playing Deontay Johnson and Keenan Allen over Jalen Waddle. They're both still safer than Jalen Waddle. I get the hype surrounding Jalen Waddle. He's got a chance to break the rookie reception record today, which is pretty cool. And he's definitely going to break it next week if he doesn't break it this week. And it's not a bad matchup for him against the Titans. It's a must-win game for the Dolphins too. But Deontay Johnson and Keenan Allen are still better fantasy options than Jalen Waddle. I'm playing both of them over Jalen Waddle. Mike Evans, snap count, or Jarrett Patterson? Yeah, we can't start Mike Evans. We cannot start Mike Evans. So, yeah, Eric Bud, I think I'd start Jarrett Patterson. I don't feel good about Jarrett Patterson, but I feel even worse about Mike Evans. I've seen some Osborne questions. I'm seeing some Osborne. Yeah, don't start Osborne. Don't start Osborne. Because I would like Osborne because Adam Thielen's out. But Sean Mannion's starting. Don't start Osborne. OBJ, you're welcome in the TikTok live. Yeah, guys, The Ravens secondary is so bad. It's so bad. So start Odell Beckham Jr. this week and definitely start Cooper Kupp. Guys, it is death, taxes, and Cooper Kupp going over 100 yards. These are the certainties in life. And he gets the Ravens this week. I mean, Cooper Kupp's arguably the fantasy MVP this season. It's him or Jonathan Taylor. Any reason for Kyler over Hurts this week? Yeah, so it's very close. Honestly, all of the top 6 QBs for me are very, very close. I would start all of them over Trey Lance just because there's this added risk of Trey Lance not playing since week 5 and being a rookie. But all of the top 6, I think you could start over each other. Honestly, Josh Allen is, to me, the pretty clear number 1. But after him, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, all these guys could be the number 1 overall quarterback this week. All of them. But to me, Kyler Murray's ceiling is higher than Jalen Hurts' ceiling. I think they have similar floors, though. Guys, Kyler Murray, I feel like people are very down on Kyler Murray right now. But he has over 30 points well within his range of outcomes. He could easily do it. He could score 5 touchdowns against the Cowboys. The Cowboys' defense has been playing well, but Kyler Murray has just an insane ceiling, which is why he's ranked still as a top 5 QB for me. If Javonte is out, do you think I can start Kupp and Van Jefferson? Yeah, definitely against the Ravens you can do that, but I do not expect Javonte to be out. It sounds like Melvin Gordon. By the way, Melvin Gordon revenge game today. If you're playing DFS, take note. Melvin Gordon revenge game against a Chargers rushing defense that's absolutely terrible. But yeah, I think Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon both playing today. They're both going to play today. Should I start Kamara or Penny? Yeah, you got to start Alvin Kamara. Got it. You just absolutely have to. Outlook on Justin Jefferson this week. Yeah, it's not quite as good as usual, but obviously you still got to start. But it's definitely not as good as usual. His over-under, I think, is in the 70s this week. Usually it's in the 90s. Sam, help me out, brother. I'm in the championship thanks to you. Tad, that's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm talking about. All right, we got some good options here. Jamar Chase, Antonio Brown are really the top 2. I think you got to start both those guys. You're not benching Jamar Chase. You're not benching Antonio Brown. Then we got Renfrow, Waddle, Ronald Jones. Renfrow's a really good option this week too. I mean, Darren Waller's just not been able to come back. But I think Ronald Jones is safer. I think I would probably go Jamar Chase, Antonio Brown, and Ronald Jones. And I know starting Antonio Brown and Ronald Jones might not feel great, but it actually raises your floor, and they're playing the Jets. The Jets are not going to be able to stop the Buccaneers today. So both those guys, both of them, there's a scenario where both Antonio Brown and Ronald Jones score 2 touchdowns today. That's actually possible against the Jets. So yeah, I would start both those guys. I couldn't join the YouTube live last week. Hope you had a great Christmas and Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, thanks, man. I'm very reflective on New Year's. I'm like a stereotypical person on New Year's. I get very reflective on New Year's. I'm pumped for 2022. Start 3 PPR: Diggs, Antonio Brown, Swift, Edmonds, Michelle. Well, you're not allowed to bench Stephon Diggs against the Falcons, even against AJ Terrell, who's been top 5 corner in the NFL this season. You have to start Stephon Diggs. Diggs has been I feel like people haven't realized just how consistent Diggs has been, because he hasn't had the massive season that you were hoping for if you drafted Stephon Diggs. But if we remove the wind game, which we should remove that Patriots-Bills game from all of our analysis. All of it. There was 50-mile-an-hour winds in that game, so let's just disregard that game for a second. Stephon Diggs has gone over 13 points in 9 consecutive games now. 9 consecutive games. I mean, he is so consistent, and he has a high ceiling. That's exactly what we want in fantasy football. High floor, high ceiling players. You got to start Stephon Diggs. The other 4 I think are much closer. Antonio Brown, Swift, Edmonds, and Michelle. Michelle has, I mean, he took hold of the backfield, but I do think he's a little risky still. There's still a chance Darrell Henderson comes in and steals some valuable touches away from Sony Michelle. I think I would probably go Antonio Brown and Chase Edmonds, especially if there's a PPR. Yeah, it is a PPR league. I'd go Antonio Brown and Chase Edmonds. Swift is interesting. I mean, Swift was a running back 1 before he was injured, but he's tough to trust this week over a guy like Chase Edmonds. Hey, Sam, thanks for helping me all year. Agumba Wale or Jarrett Patterson also picked 2. Waddle, Lockett, DJ Moore. Yeah, I'm starting Agumba Wale over Jarrett Patterson 100%. I think Agumba Wale out-touches Jarrett Patterson today, and I think Agumba Wale has a better matchup than Jared Patterson today. So all signs point to Ogunbowale over Jared Patterson. Pick 2, Waddle, Lockett, DJ Moore. I think I'd bench Lockett. And I don't want to play and make decisions with fear in the championship, but in a head-to-head matchup, I think you just lock in the volume, and that's what you're getting with Jalen Waddle and DJ Moore. Like, Tyler Lockett could win you the championship, but he could also score 0 points. Waddle and DJ Moore, they're both going over 10 points today. James Conner or Mike Williams? I'm not starting James Conner today. I think he's going to play, but I'm not starting him. It's not a good matchup for James Conner. The Cardinals are underdogs for one of the few times this season, and Chase Edmonds is back. Like, he's going to take all the receiving work. Tyreek Hill or CeeDee Lamb, both those guys. Who is your absolute best wild card for daily fantasy today? Well, I am punting the tight end position. I'm just completely punting. And so I guess my best wild card is Steven Anderson, who's minimum priced on DraftKings. Like, I just need Steven Anderson to fall into the end zone. A 1-yard touchdown for Steven Anderson, and I'll probably cash a lot of money today. He's my wild card. I got 2 more wild cards for you, because Steven Anderson, if you're not going to punt the tight end position, it's a kind of a tough week to punt the tight end position. It's probably the most contrarian thing I'm doing this week in daily fantasy is just playing Steven Anderson basically every lineup, because I want to get Jonathan Taylor. But if you're not going to punt the tight end position, a couple other wild cards. I like Kendrick Bourne today. I think Kendrick Bourne has a lot of upside against, a bad Jaguars team. There's obviously the concern that the Patriots are just going to run the ball this entire game, because they've shown a tendency to do that, especially when they have a lead. They are built to run. But Kendrick Bourne, I think he's like 3 catches away and a couple hundred yards away from some big incentives in his contract. And Nelson Aguilar's out. So I like Kendrick Bourne for that narrative as well. He's actually leading the Patriots in receiving this season, even though I still think Jacoby Myers is really their wide receiver 1. The other guy that I think is a deep dart throw is Zay Jones, who's seen some like interestingly high air yards for the Raiders. Even though Deshaun Jackson's there, Zay Jones has actually filled the Henry Ruggs role a little bit more than Deshaun Jackson has. They've kind of split that Henry Ruggs role. And the Colts secondary also isn't very scary. And I do think that the Colts are going to beat the Raiders today. Zay Jones actually has back-to-back games over 11 points in fantasy. He's got back-to-back games over 11 points. In one of those games, he had 128 air yards. He's had 2 games over the last month over 125 air yards. So there you go. Another wild card is Zay Jones. Zay Jones, Kendrick Bourne, and Steven Anderson. Those are my wild cards in daily fantasy. We got a question from Jaden in the YouTube live. And by the way, if you're watching live on TikTok, thank you for tuning in. We're also live on YouTube, and in the YouTube live, you get a little bit more info. You can see my top 10 rankings for every position on the YouTube live, and I can pull up your question a little easier. So come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. If you are watching live on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and hit that like button. I do appreciate it. Elijah Mitchell, Brandon Cooks, or Cordero Patterson. Yeah, Cordero Patterson got you to the championship, but you can't start him this week. You just can't do it. You can't trust Cordero Patterson. Like, to me, the cutoff for Cordero Patterson is like probably Ogunbowale. Like, I'd probably start Patterson over Ogunbowale, but it's close. And this one's not that close. Like, I don't think he should be in consideration here. To me, I would go Elijah Mitchell. I would go Elijah Mitchell over Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, he's in a good spot. The 49ers secondary has been bad. They've been a bottom 10 secondary against receivers this season for fantasy purposes. But the Texans have been the worst running defense in the league. You got to take the slight injury risk with Elijah Mitchell and start him against the Texans. Again, the ceiling for Elijah Mitchell in this game is 40-plus points. He has that's really his ceiling. There's very few running backs with that ceiling. If he gets 20-plus carries today, that's his ceiling. And that's very possible. And I think his floor, like, he's easily going over 10. Elijah Mitchell could get 10 carries in this game and still score 15 points. Singletary or Darrell Williams? Yeah, that one's super interesting. I think I would go Singletary, but it's definitely close. Singletary has the better matchup, though. He does. He has the better matchup. So I got 4 running backs, and I need 3 to start. Patterson, Harris. Did you say Damian Williams or Darrow? I'm assuming you mean Darrow Williams. Damian Williams has been out most of the season. So, yeah, I would probably bench Cordell Patterson in this situation. A.J. Brown or T. Higgins? Do not bench A.J. Brown. Do not bench A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is going to get fed the ball today. He's going to get fed. There's no Derrick Henry. There's no Julio Jones. The Titans feed the ball to their best players. So we can lock in A.J. Brown for 10 plus targets against a Dolphins secondary that has not been very scary. Jarrett Patterson or Odell, yeah, definitely Odell against the Ravens secondary. Defense rankings. Luke, I don't have defensive rankings on the YouTube Live ready to go, but some defenses that I absolutely love. The Bears against the Giants, I think are a great defense to play. The Packers against the Vikings, Sean Mannion starting. I think that's a really good option. I also like the Colts against the Raiders. I think, by the way, in DFS, stacking the Colts with Jonathan Taylor or stacking the Bears with David Montgomery, I think that's the move. I think one of those two is the move. Are you confident starting Chase Edmonds half PPR? Yeah, I am. Toe Muncher. I am confident starting Chase Edmonds this week because the Cardinals are underdogs in this game, and James Conner's dealing with an injury. I think James Conner's going to play, but I would still trust Chase Edmonds in a half PPR or PPR league. Non-PPR, I think, is a little bit different. QBs to stream, yeah, it's Trey Lance, man. It's Trey Lance week. Happy Trey Lance week, everybody. I thought week 5 was going to be Trey Lance week, and he actually did fine. He had 280 total yards in that game, but he didn't score a touchdown. I think Trey Lance. This is Trey Lance week. This will be known as Trey Lance week. I think that there's a better chance that Trey Lance secures the starting job for the rest of the season than that he doesn't. I think that's a bold take right now. I actually posted a video about this 5 days ago, saying that if any rookie QB is going to win the Super Bowl this year, I think it's going to be Trey Lance. I don't think he's going to do it. Like, I don't think the 49ers or Patriots win the Super Bowl, but I think if there is a rookie QB to do it this season, is Trey Lance. The exciting part about Trey Lance, and don't get me wrong, there's risk with Trey Lance this week. There's absolutely risk. But the exciting part about Trey Lance is the upside of Trey Lance is so high. If Trey Lance figures it out as a passer, he can be the overall quarterback 1 in fantasy in years to come. That's the ceiling for Trey Lance. And that's the ceiling for him this week. He could be the number 1 overall quarterback this week. It's within his range of outcomes, absolutely. Elijah Mitchell, Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary, Darrell Williams, DJ Moore. Pick 2 of these 1 for flex and then 1 of the running backs. Yeah, definitely I'm starting Elijah Mitchell over all those other running backs. And then I'm definitely going to start DJ Moore as well. The other 3 guys I think are super close. Like all these guys are kind of running back 2s with upside. Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary, Darrell Williams. I think I feel the best about Devin Singletary. I think I feel the most confident about Devin Singletary than I do about Rashad Penny and Darrell Williams. But all 3 of those guys are close. Michael Carter or Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think you got to rock with Amon-Ra. He's gone over 15 points in 4 straight weeks. He's gone a month straight with at least 15 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown or Hunter Renfrow. Yeah, I'd start Renfrow, Kyle. Renfrow, there's still no Darren Waller. So if it's a PPR league, I think you go with Renfrow. Trey Lance or Kyler Murray. Yeah. So if you come to the YouTube Live, you can see my top 10 QBs for this week scrolling at the bottom of the screen. TikTok just does not have this feature. But you'll see my quarterbacks ranked. And yeah, there's 6 QBs I'm starting over Trey Lance today. There's only 6 of them. The 6 QBs I'm starting over Trey Lance. I'm starting Josh Allen over Trey Lance. I'm starting Tom Brady over Trey Lance. I'm starting Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts all over Trey Lance. Other than that, I'm starting Trey Lance. Like I'm starting Trey Lance over Aaron Rodgers. I'm starting Trey Lance over Joe Burrow. I'm starting Trey Lance over Dak Prescott. I'm starting Trey Lance over everybody else. How are we feeling about Mike Evans today? Feeling horrible about him. I'm feeling horrible about Mike Evans today. I don't know how you could not be feeling horrible about Mike Evans. They literally said he's going to be playing on snap count. So I don't feel good about him. I don't feel good about him at all. I would be benching Mike Evans. Terry or Dar Agumbawale. Oh, God. The Terry McLaurin questions have been so difficult this season. He's been such a headache in fantasy this season. It's been tough to have Terry McLaurin in fantasy. I still think he's a baller. I still think he has tremendous potential in the NFL. He's just had such a tough quarterback situation this season. Terry McLaurin has not gone over 10 points in 5 straight games. 5 straight games under 10 fantasy points. You really can't start him. I would start Dar Agumbawale over Terry McLaurin. And man, it's just sad to say. It's sad to say out loud. But I would. All right, let's get back to some of the comments in the YouTube Live. Ooh, Michael Gallup or Christian Kirk. I think it's got to be Kirk. Gallup's the number 3 option on his team. Christian Kirk's the number 1 passing option right now for the Cardinals. Like him and Zach Ertz are getting more targets than AJ Green. There's no DeAndre Hopkins. And Rondell Moore has really just like disappeared. So I think you go Christian Kirk pretty easily here. Gerald Everett or Cole Kmet. Yeah, we're digging deep at the tight end position. I think it's Cole Kmet, though. I think Cole Kmet, let me pull up the stats for Cole Kmet, but Kmet has since returning from injury, Kmet has just completely dominated the snaps at tight end for the Bears. Like Jimmy Graham was playing a lot before the injury, but since coming back, he's played over 95% of the snaps back-to-back weeks. He's got over 49 yards in back-to-back games. At least 8 points, 2 straight games. I think you go Kmet. I know Gerald Everett. I think Gerald Everett had one big game in the last 3 weeks. But yeah, I would go Cole Kmet. Alvin or Elijah. Zeke, this one's close. And this is proof that you just got to start Elijah Mitchell this week. But you got to start Alvin Kamara over Elijah Mitchell. I have Alvin Kamara my number 2 running back. I actually do think this decision is close. But you got to start Kamara. And Mark Ingram was kind of a late scratch. Mark Ingram did not play. And we all saw how bad Tony Jones was. If you don't remember, Tony Jones, there's a game where Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara was out, and Tony Jones, I don't think even totaled like 30 yards on like 15 carries. So Mark Ingram is on the wrong side of questionable right now. And the only other running back on the roster is Tony Jones, who is arguably a practice squad level player at this point. So yeah, you got to start Alvin Kamara. You just have to. Don't bench him in the fantasy championship. Zeke or Sony Michel? Andrew, I think you got to go Zeke. Herbert or Lance? Yeah, I think Herbert was one of the 6 QBs I'm starting over Lance. Let me pull it up again. Tyler Huntley or Dak? I think you go Dak. I think you go Dak over Huntley. It's definitely close, though. Huntley is safe. Like he has the rushing floor that we want in fantasy. But I don't feel great about starting him over Dak. I have a lot of questions, says Brian. I got a lot of answers, Brian. I got a lot of answers, man. All right, let me pull up the QB rankings. I want to see where I had Justin Herbert. Yeah, Justin Herbert, I have ranked number 5. I'm starting Herbert over, again, here's the 6 quarterbacks I'm starting over Trey Lance. I'm starting Josh Allen over him. I'm starting Tom Brady over him. I'm starting Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts. So those are the 6 guys I'm starting over Lance. I'm starting Lance over Wilson. I'm starting Lance over Huntley. I'm starting Lance over Dak Prescott. I'm starting Lance over Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow. That's how confident I am in Lance's ceiling and his floor. Again, the floor for Lance, he rushed for 87 yards the last time he played. He had 15 carries. He's playing the league worst rushing defense today. And a lot of those carries he had were designed runs. So yeah, I'm starting Lance over Burrow. I am. Is James Conner playing? Yeah, he is. He hasn't been confirmed yet, but we're under the assumption right now that he is. And I still think you start Chase Edmonds with some confidence. Hey, Sam, thanks for everything you do. Thanks, man. Would you pair Lance with Kittle? Yeah, I don't hate it. Why Stafford so low? Yeah, I'm not fading Stafford. He probably should be higher. He should probably be ahead of Dak. I would probably put Stafford ahead of Dak. I don't know if I'd put him over Rodgers or Joe Burrow, but yeah, Stafford has astronomical ceiling against the Ravens too. The Ravens in their last game, they allowed over 70, I think 85, at least 85 yards to each of Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase went over 100 each. So yeah, you gotta like the ceiling for Stafford. I don't think I'd start him over Lance though. I don't think I'd start Stafford over Lance. Maybe I'd start him over Rodgers and Burrow. I'd probably start him over Dak though. That's a good call. I'm not fading Stafford in this week. Penny or Damian Harris? This one's close too. I want to say Damian Harris though. Damian Harris scored 3 touchdowns last week. He had 3 touchdowns. Good morning, Sam. I tried the WalterPicks app. Thanks, man. Bills, Colts, or Dolphins defense? Yeah, the Bills defense is a really good option today as well. I don't like the Dolphins. I would go with the Bills. I would go with the Bills against the Falcons. I think I like the Colts stacked with Jonathan Taylor a lot in daily fantasy, but I like the Bills defense overall more. I don't love, and I do not love that third defense you had listed there. Elijah Mitchell or T. Higgins non-PPR has to be Elijah Mitchell. Has to be Elijah Mitchell. In a non-PPR league, you would be wrong to bench Elijah Mitchell in almost every situation. Sam, I made it this far with your TikToks. Thanks, man. That's exciting to hear. Need your help one more time for the ship. Let's go. PPR pick 3. Najee, Elijah Mitchell, Zeke, Ronald Jones. It's so tough to bench Najee Harris because he sees such consistent volume. I'm definitely starting Elijah Mitchell here, though. And honestly, Ronald Jones versus Zeke, I think, is really close, too. But you got to start Najee Harris, and you got to start Elijah Mitchell. And honestly, I think you go Ronald Jones over Zeke. Happy championship week, guys. You got to win these championships. Who should I start? We got Deontay Foreman, Tony Pollard, or Dare Ogunbowale. Yeah, I think Deontay Foreman's a trap this week. I do. I don't feel good about him against the Dolphins. The Dolphins' run defense has actually been better over the last 2 months than their pass defense. I also don't feel amazing about Tony Pollard. He feels like a really, like, all these guys are wild cards. But I would argue Tony Pollard has the highest ceiling of these 3 guys, but Dare Ogunbowale is the safest floor. I think Ogunbowale is not a horrible option. Like, I think he's going over 10 points this week. The Patriots' run defense is not good. It's been the clear weakness of the team this entire year. And Ogunbowale had 17 carries last week. So I think he's the safest bet. Penny or Michael Carter? Penny's got such a better matchup. He has such a better matchup. I think I would go with Rashad Penny. Is Saquon a good start? Good is not the word I would use with Saquon Barkley right now. Like, I have a feeling, guys, next season, I'm going to have a lot of Saquon Barkley and a lot of Christian McCaffrey because I just generally ignore injuries more than most people. Like, I don't pretend like I know who's going to get hurt in a given year. So I feel like I'm going to end up with a lot of Saquon and McCaffrey. I trust in both their talents a lot. But Saquon's in just a brutal situation. Like, he's playing with Mike Lennon or Jake Fromm. So you can't feel great about him. But at the same time, there's no Sterling Shepard. There's no Kadarius Toney. There's no Darius Slayton. There's not even John Ross for the Giants today. Like, it's insane who the Giants are trotting out on the football field today. So, like, Saquon's going to see minimum 15 touches. And so I think I would go Saquon. As for Rashad Penny over Michael Carter, I think I'm going Penny over Carter. Just because of the matchup. Hey, Sam, 2-year sub. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, guys, the number one way you could possibly support me. Here's really quickly, the three biggest ways you could possibly support me as we head to the ending of the fantasy football season. The number one way is by subscribing to one of the subscriptions in the WalterPicks app, which we are running at a discount right now. Link to the WalterPicks app can also help you with all the start-sit questions I'm seeing right now. The app uses machine learning powered by Walter to help you dominate daily fantasy, player props, and your season-long fantasy leagues. So that's the number one way you could support me. The number two way is by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now. Hit the sub button. And the number 3 way would be a 5-star review in the iOS app. So I appreciate all that. Seriously. All right, pick 2. Ronald Jones, DeAndre Swift, Darrell Williams. DeAndre Swift is definitely risky. DeAndre Swift is risky. He's risky this week. Like, if we knew it was going to be the normal workload for DeAndre Swift, then I feel like it has to be Swift here. But we don't know that. I definitely think I would start Ronald Jones out of these guys. And then I think I would go Swift. I think I would bench Darrell Williams. I know Darrell Williams went off last time he played without Clyde. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's out this week. Bengals rush defense has been okay. Not great, not amazing, but I would go with DeAndre Swift and Ronald Jones over Darrell Williams. Actually, if you just look at the player prop lines, Darrell Williams and DeAndre Swift actually have like the same rushing prop, but obviously DeAndre Swift has a much higher ceiling as a receiver. So I think I'd go Swift and Ronald Jones. Hey, Sam, Burrow, Lance, or Huntley? Yeah, I'm starting Lance. Andrew, I'm starting Lance over Joe Burrow, and I'm starting him over Huntley too. I am. Ryan's back for the DFS lineup. Ryan, we have been absolutely cashing on DraftKings over the last few weeks. I'm actually in the semifinals in my head-to-head DraftKings league. And I did put in 20 tournament lineups this week as well, because I think it's a super interesting slate for daily fantasy this Sunday. But here's the DraftKings lineup showing on the YouTube live right now. Pick 2, Najee, Michael Carter, or Javonte Williams. You got to start Najee Harris over both those guys. I think I would go Javonte Williams over Michael Carter. Darrell Williams or Rashad Penny. I think I'd go Penny. I think I'd go Penny over Darrell Williams. Ronald Jones or Najee. Yeah, again, you got to start Najee Harris. You really do. You can't bench Najee Harris for Ronald Jones. Antonio Brown or Javonte Williams. I am not benching Antonio Brown. I refuse to bench Antonio Brown this week. I don't know if you guys saw the narrative around his contract too. There's a couple contract narratives going on. And one of them is with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, he's like 3 catches away. He's like 3 catches away from like $250K or something in incentives. And he's like 80 yards in 3. I think he needs like 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and like 10 catches or something. Maybe it was 20 catches. And he gets $250K for each of those in incentives. And last year, this exact same thing happened with Antonio Brown. Tom Brady fed him the ball at the end of the season so he could hit his incentives. This is a real narrative. But regardless of that narrative, Antonio Brown is the number 1 target for Tom Brady today against the Jets. So start Antonio Brown. Like there's the concern with the ankle injury, but he's playing. I'm starting Antonio Brown everywhere. OBJ or St. Brown. Yeah, I think I'd go Odell Beckham Jr. over St. Brown. I would. St. Brown's safer. He's safer. He's got over 15 points in 4 straight weeks. But the Ravens secondary is something that I definitely want to attack. A.J. Brown or Keenan Allen. Yeah, A.J. Brown or Antonio Brown. I'm starting A.J. Brown over basically everybody. I'm not benching A.J. Brown. There's only 6 receivers I have ranked ahead of A.J. Brown this week. Obviously, Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Devontae Adams. Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, and Justin Jefferson. That's it. Then A.J. Brown, and then Antonio Brown's number 8. Those are the top 8. I like the top 8 receivers to me this week are all going to go off. Like at least one of them will probably disappoint. But I feel very confident about these top 8 receivers. Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Antonio Brown. I like all those guys at the top. Mooney or Gage? Yeah, I think you got to go Gage. Over Mooney. Burrow or Herbert? Yeah, I'm rocking with Herbert over Burrow. I know Burrow absolutely balled that last week, but he doesn't get to play the Ravens every week. I'm going with Herbert. Sam, Michelle, Penny, or Foreman this week, full PPR. Yeah, I'm not rocking with Foreman. Foreman's a trap, guys. I told you to bench Foreman the last time they played on Thursday night, and he ended up scoring a touchdown and still didn't even eclipse 10 points. Like, that's what we're dealing with. He had 17 yards in his last game. Don't start Deontay Foreman. Do not start Deontay Foreman. So, yeah, definitely not him. Penny and Michelle, I think, are closer. I would probably go with Penny, though, over Michelle. Would you start Justin Jefferson? Yeah. Sam, how's it going? Also, have a blessed New Year's. Yards, my man. Thanks for tuning in. A true OG in the TikTok live. I appreciate you, man. I hope you have a fantastic New Year's also. And I've been doing pretty well, man. I'm very reflective on New Year's. I'm a stereotypical New Year's person. But I'm excited for 2022, man. I think this is going to be a huge, huge year. Hey, Sam, quick question. Miami defense or Chicago defense? Yeah, it's got to be Chicago. Got to be Chicago defense. The Titans-Dolphins game, by the way, I think is one of the better games of the week. It's one of the better games of the week. Both teams need to win to make the playoffs. I don't feel good about either defense in that game. Knox or Pitts? Yeah, I'm going Pitts over Knox. It's definitely close. Like, the tight end decisions after the top 4 are close. But I don't think, there's a huge gap. We have Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, and Rob Gronkowski are all in this tier by themselves today. And then right after that, there's this tier of Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, Mike Gesicki, Dawson Knox. They're all kind of bunched together. And all of them could go under 10 points easily. All of them could also score a touchdown and go over. That's the tight end position. So if you don't have one of those top 4, good luck. What are your top defenses? Can you start Swift? Yeah, you can start Swift. My top defenses, there's a lot of good ones. Let me pull up my picks against the spread, because let me just go game by game here for a second, because we haven't walked through every game yet. If you come to the YouTube Live, by the way, link is in the TikTok bio. If you come to the YouTube Live, you can see on the screen my top 10 rankings for every position and my favorite picks against the spread. We went 3 for 3 in our locks against the spread last week. We're up to 64% now in the locks against the spread. 64%. All right, so let me start from the top. The Raiders are 9.5-point underdogs against the Colts. It's just too many points. Like, I think the Colts win this game pretty easily. I like Jonathan Taylor and the Colts defense a ton in daily fantasy, but I'm not going to. 9.5 points to me is just too much. I don't feel super confident about that spread. For the Raiders, there's no one I feel like you really need to start other than Hunter Renfrow. For the Colts, obviously you're starting Jonathan Taylor, and other than that, don't think there's a single player you need to start. The next game, the Bears are 6-point favorites against the Giants. Andy Dalton versus some combination of Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. I'm taking the Bears at -6. Again, this is a pretty meaningless game with absolutely no playoff implications, but I would be starting David Montgomery. I would definitely be starting David Montgomery in this game. I actually like the David Montgomery Chicago Bears stack a ton this week. For the Giants, guys, Kenny Golladay. And I know most of you probably aren't thinking about Kenny Golladay in your fantasy football championships because if you've been starting Kenny Golladay this season, you're probably not in the fantasy football championship. I mean, he's had a horrible season. If you told me before the season that Kenny Golladay, we'd be in week 17 and Kenny Golladay would have 0 touchdowns, I would have laughed. If you told me that he played as many games as he's played and would have 0 touchdowns. But I actually think today could be the day that he scores his first touchdown. And this is the first time I've said that all season. Because you look at the weapons for the Giants, and this is why I'm taking the Bears in the game, by the way. Again, I'm taking the Bears -6. I like the Bears defense a lot. I like David Montgomery a lot. But on the Giants side of the ball, I think you kind of have to start Saquon Barkley. If you're in the finals, you kind of have to start him. I know it might not be great. It might not feel good, but you kind of have to start him. But Kenny Golladay is interesting in daily fantasy too because there's no Darius Slayton. There's no Kadarius Toney. There's no Sterling Shepard. And there's no John Ross. They're without their next 4 best receivers after Kenny Golladay. So I know the quarterback play is going to be horrible, but Golladay should see at least 10 targets in this game. And that makes him kind of an interesting option in daily fantasy where he's going to really, he won't be rostered basically at all. Lamar is officially out, by the way. Lamar Jackson officially out. Swift or Jacobs? Yeah, I think I would go Swift over Jacobs. Moving on to the next game, the Buccaneers, 14-point favorites against the Jets. I'm taking the Buccaneers as 14-point favorites. I think the Bucs win this game by more than 2 scores. This is the time of year where you just cannot be betting against Tom Brady. And we know he owns the Jets. The Jets have nothing to play for. If anything, the Jets are incentivized to lose at this point. So I'm taking the Bucs -14 against the Jets. I mean, it's obviously a ton of points. I'm taking the Bills as -14.5-point favorites against the Falcons too. There's some massive spreads today. Absolutely massive. This is what happens at the end of the year, always in the NFL. But the Bills also have a ton to play for. So do the Buccaneers. Both the Buccaneers and the Bills have a lot to play for, and they're playing 2 teams that are literally incentivized to lose. So I'm taking the Bills -14.5 as well. And the Bills have their whole offense back for the first time in a little while. For the Buccaneers, you need to be starting Antonio Brown, you need to be starting Ronald Jones, and you need to be starting Rob Gronkowski. Those are all 3 of those guys you have to start. For the Jets, really the only player you can even consider starting is Michael Carter, who's the most talented player they have on offense today. And even against the Buccaneers, who are the #1 rushing defense, I think you can really consider Michael Carter still. He's going to get 15 touches in this game. He is very talented. I actually like his rushing prop. I think he's going his rushing prop on PrizePicks right now is 35.5. And I know he's up against the Bucs, but if he gets 15 carries, guys, he's going over 35 rushing yards, pretty easily. He could average 2.5 yards a carry and clear his rushing prop. But he's the only Jets player that I think you can consider starting. The Eagles versus Washington game. Eagles are 6-point favorites, and I'm telling you, this is the type of game the Eagles will lose. But I'm still taking the Eagles -6 because I have no faith in Washington at all. I think you need to start Jalen Hurts, of course. Other than that, Dallas Goedert is really, I think, the next must start. Devontae Smith is not a lock. He's not a lock. I do love Devontae Smith. I think I have a weird love for Devontae Smith because I think he's just people don't realize how talented Devontae Smith is still because he hasn't seen that much volume this season. And really, it's kind of concerning for his whole career. Now that he's on the Eagles and they're such a run-first team, maybe he's never going to see the type of volume for him to really break out. But he had a big game last week, 19 points. He was a top 15 wide receiver last week. He's seen at least 5 targets now in 2 straight games. So he can definitely be considered too against a pretty weak Washington secondary. Boston Scott and Jordan Howard are going to be leading the way with no Miles Sanders this week. I don't trust either of them, but one of them is probably going to end up scoring a touchdown. For Washington, Jarrett Patterson is going to be starting at running back. I don't love him. I don't think I trust Terry McLaurin either. There's really no one on the Washington offense that I trust, honestly. That Washington offense has looked so bad, so bad over the last 3 weeks. It's tough to trust a single person. Moving on to the next game, the Chiefs. Only 3.5-point favorites against the Bengals. I feel like the Bengals keep doing this thing where people get super excited about them and then they disappoint. And then people get super excited about them and then they disappoint. And this is going to be one of those disappointing weeks for the Bengals. I think they get obliterated by the Chiefs. Honestly, I was very close to making this game a lock, but I always feel like I'm just too much with the public by making the Chiefs a lock. But the Chiefs are going to beat the Bengals today. And I think they're going to beat them by more than 3.5 points. The Bengals are good. I think the Bengals are not a team that I would want to face in the playoffs, but they're also just not that consistent. They are on a good stretch. They just destroyed the Ravens. They beat the Broncos. They lost to the 49ers 3 weeks ago. And they got crushed by the Chargers. And that Chargers game is really the game to me that stands out. That was the beginning of December. The Chargers scored 41 points against the Bengals. I think we see the Chiefs do something similar today. You're starting Travis Kelce, obviously. You're starting Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Apparently, Tyreek Hill was still dealing with some shortness of breath from COVID last game that has gone away now. So I think you got to trust Tyreek Hill too. And I think that explains his lack of production last game and his lack of playing time. He didn't even play half the snaps last week for the Chiefs. On the other side of the ball, the Bengals, I think you got to start Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Mixon. I don't think you should start Tyler Boyd. And Joe Burrow, I think, is on the fringe. I still like Trey Lance more than Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts more than Joe Burrow this week. The Jaguars are 16.5-point underdogs against the Patriots. 16.5-point underdogs against the Patriots. That's a lot of points. I think it's one of the bigger spreads we've seen all season. For a Patriots team that has not been doing so well recently. So it's just way too many points. 16, I know it's against Trevor Lawrence. The Bill Belichick's just historically dominated rookie quarterbacks. The game's in New England. The Patriots are going to win the game, but by more than 16.5, I don't feel great about that. I don't feel great about 16.5. The Dolphins, 3-point underdogs against the Titans. I actually think the Titans are going to win the game, but I think it's going to be an extremely close game. I think it could go either way. So I'm taking the Dolphins +3. The Ravens are 6-point underdogs. I think they were 6-point underdogs against the Rams. Maybe it was 6.5. Guys, the Rams are here. The Rams are a Super Bowl contending team. And we thought they would be this season. They just kept disappointing. But they really are starting to get hot at the end of the season now. And they've had some easy games, but the Rams are not a team that I'm betting against right now. They beat the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and the Jaguars in their last 4 games. They've scored at least 30 points in 3 of those games. The Rams are scoring at least 30 points today against the Ravens. They're going to destroy the Ravens secondary. So I like that spread a lot. I do. I like the Rams versus Ravens spread a lot. -6.5. Rams are -6.5 against the Ravens. But my lock of the day is actually an underdog. It's actually an underdog. It's the Broncos +9 versus the Chargers. It's the Broncos +9 versus the Chargers. And I can almost guarantee the public is all over the Chargers on this game. But 9 points is a lot of points. And the Broncos are going to run the ball so easily in this game. They're going to run the ball a ton. I could see a scenario in this game where the Broncos give both Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon 15 touches. I think they both could get 15 carries in this game. So, yeah, I'm starting Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. By the way, revenge game for Melvin Gordon. And the Broncos could beat the Chargers in this game. The Chargers' run defense is not good. I don't think the Broncos will beat them, but they could. And I think they're going to pretty easily cover the 9-point spread. So that's the lock of the week. It's the Broncos +9 against the Chargers. Again, I think the Chargers win, but I'm not giving away 9 points against the league's bottom 3 rushing defense where Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon have both been super efficient this season. Dare Ogunbowale or Darrell Williams, I love you, bro. I would go Darrell Williams, man. I'd go Darrell Williams. Antonio Brown or CeeDee Lamb. This is not an easy decision. But I'm going Antonio Brown. Again, I just don't want to bench Antonio Brown. Howard or Penny, I'm going Penny over Howard for sure. I'm not benching Antonio Brown. There's only 7 receivers I'm benching Antonio Brown for, and all of them are absolute studs. Not that CeeDee Lamb's not an absolute stud, but I'm not playing him over Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, to me, is safer than CeeDee Lamb, and he has an even higher ceiling. And don't get me wrong, I want to start CeeDee Lamb. Like, you should probably be starting both of them. They're both top 10 receivers this week. But CeeDee Lamb hasn't gone over 15 points once in the last 3 weeks, and he's had good matchups. Washington, he's played Giants, and then Washington again. He just hasn't found the end zone. He's gone over 50 yards in each of those games. Like, he's seen pretty consistent targets, but CeeDee Lamb's tough to trust over Antonio Brown. You got to start Antonio Brown. You have to start Antonio Brown. The contract incentive narrative is very real, and he's the top target for Tom Brady against the Jets. Don't overthink it. What's up, Sam? Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, and Ronald Jones or Darrell Williams? Yeah, I'm going Cooper and Ronald Jones there pretty easily, Sean. Like, I'm scared to bench Tyler Lockett. I'm scared to bench him because he could win your week. But I think Amari Cooper is just much safer, and Ronald Jones definitely over Darrell Williams. Singletary or Penny? Yeah, I'm going Singletary over Penny. Uzoma, Komet, or Higbee? I have Higbee ranked as my number 10 tight end. So I'm going Higbee. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, man. It does not feel like morning for me. It doesn't. I've been up, I think, since 5:30 a.m. And it feels like mid-afternoon. I'm hitting my stride. It is Championship Sunday, man. It's Championship Sunday. Lance over Dak, and why? Yeah, so I'm playing Lance over Dak. And this is exactly why. Let me lay out exactly why. I am nervous to bench basically everybody in the Cowboys-Cardinals game because it's the game with the highest over-under of the week. But Trey Lance, there's so many reasons why I think you really have to start Trey Lance this week unless you have one of those top 6 guys. And I don't think Dak is one of those top 6 guys. Trey Lance, the last time he played, he had 15 carries, half of which were designed runs. He totaled 89 rushing yards in that game. That was against the Cardinals back in week 5. So we're like 2.5 months removed from the last time we saw Trey Lance. And in that game, he rushed for 89 yards, 15 carries, and he threw for 180 yards. He wasn't good throwing. He had 52% completion percentage, threw a pick. He had 0 TDs. But his 89 rushing yards still pushed him over 15 fantasy points because that's what rushing does for quarterbacks. But now we're 2.5 months removed. All reports are indicating he's started to show flashes of what they thought he could be in practice. And he has an even easier matchup now. He gets the Texans, who are the league's worst rushing defense. So Trey Lance's floor in this game is 15 points. Like, his rushing, because of his rushing, his floor is 15. I think his ceiling is literally in the 40s. I think his ceiling against the Texans in the 40s. Like, I think Trey Lance is going over 300 total yards. But the reason I'm starting over Dak, I think he has a safer floor than Dak and a better ceiling. I think he has both. The only guys I don't think that for are really the top 6 QBs this week. I don't think he has a better floor ceiling than Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. Other than that, it's Trey Lance, man. It's Trey Lance week. I'd start Hurts over Lance, though. I would argue Lance has a higher ceiling than Hurts, but Hurts is really he's the rushing QB of the season. All right, let's get back to some of the comments in the chat. Hey, Sam, WalterPicks app is great and has everything. And everything is saying to start Higbee over Muth. But my gut says Muth. And I love having a player on Monday night talk me out of it. Thanks again. Josh, I'm not going to talk you out of this one. Because you are in the fantasy football championship. And honestly, in a situation like this, especially at the tight end position, you got to go with your gut here. And you got to have a guy to root for on Monday night. Honestly, start Muth. You got to start Muth. The difference between who does better between Higbee and Muth is literally going to be who falls into the end zone and who doesn't. If neither of them do, then neither of them's going to do well anyway. It's the tight end position. It's the perfect position to just trust your gut. Go with Muth, man. Go with Muth. I'm not talking about it. The last thing we should be doing is talking us out of our gut feeling in the fantasy football championship. Hey, Sam, gave 5 stars. Love the app. Thanks, man. Higgins, AJ Brown, Antonio Brown, pick 2. Also, Bears or Packers defense. Yeah, I like both defenses. I would go with the Bears defense, though. And I would be going with AJ Brown and Antonio Brown over Higgins. Honestly, AJ Brown and Antonio Brown, if you have both those guys, I think you're winning your championship. Like, I actually think they're both going to go over 25 points today. Would you start Patterson over McLaurin? Yeah, I would. Pete, I would. It's so tough to trust McLaurin. Again, we just went through the numbers for him. He hasn't gone over 10 points in the last month. He's gone, I think, 5 straight games under 10 fantasy points. How can we trust him? I know Cordell Patterson's struggling too, but I think he's a better play than McLaurin. Star 444. Thanks for tuning in again. I do appreciate the gifts. I do really appreciate it. Keenan, CD, AB, Rojo, pick 3. I need help, Sam. Michael, I'm here to give you the help, man. Like I have been all season long. So if I've helped you at all, seriously, I appreciate you all tuning in, and I do appreciate you guys hitting that follow button and hitting that subscribe button. Keenan, CD, AB, Rojo, pick 3. I need help, Sam. Keenan Allen, CD Lamb, Antonio Brown, Ronald Jones. I like starting Antonio Brown and Ronald Jones together in the same lineup because to me, at least one of them's going off, and they definitely both good too. Yeah, like at least one of them's going off. And then I think I would go Keenan Allen over CD Lamb. Definitely close decisions, though. Definitely close decisions. If it's a PPR league, I would strongly consider those first 3. Thanks for your help this year, Sam. Josh Jacobs or Darrell Williams. And Huntley versus Taysom Hill for the championship. Oh. I think you go Huntley over Taysom Hill. I would go Huntley over Taysom Hill. Josh Jacobs versus Darrell Williams is also super close. It's very close. I think I would go Josh Jacobs over Darrell Williams, though. I think I would go Josh Jacobs and Huntley. I would start Trey Lance over both those guys, though, if he's available. Flex, Antonio Brown, Elijah Mitchell, Ronald Jones, or Javonte Williams, PPR. You got to pick one. That's tough. This is a tough one to only pick one. Because it's between the first 2, though. It's between the first 2. The question here is Antonio Brown, Elijah Mitchell, Ronald Jones, Javonte Williams. It's between the first 2. In a PPR league, I think the first 2 are even closer. Antonio Brown versus Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell gets the league worst rushing defense. League's worst rushing defense. This is part of the reason I love Trey Lance in this game, because I think Trey Lance is going to run a lot. He had 15 carries in his last start for 89 yards against a much better Cardinals defense. By the way, back in week 5, the Cardinals were a top 5 defense in the league. They were undefeated at the time. So I think Elijah Mitchell's safer. But honestly, again, I don't want to bench Antonio Brown. I've been waiting for this question, Zach. I've been waiting for this question. The free player prop pick of the week. And honestly, there's a bunch that I like. Actually, if you go to our Twitter, at WalterPicks, go to the Twitter, at WalterPicks, we tweeted out 3 of our props just completely free. So at WalterPicks app, I think it's at WalterPicks app on Twitter. I think the link is actually in the YouTube description. Link is in the YouTube description, straight to the Twitter. So if you're watching live on YouTube, tap the description, go to the Twitter. You got 3 free player props there. And then also, here's one free one right now. AJ Brown. It's AJ Brown, over 70.5 receiving yards. Honestly, this prop should be probably like 82.5 receiving yards. AJ Brown, over 70.5 receiving yards, is the free player prop pick of the day. And here's why. AJ Brown, in his last game, it was pretty clear that the Titans are, like, almost regardless of what the defense does, the Titans are going to force the ball to AJ Brown. AJ Brown's also off the injury report this week, and it's a must-win game against the Dolphins. The Dolphins secondary, by the way, has allowed the 8th most receiving yards per game this season. They've actually been a bottom 5 secondary over the last 2 months. They started out as a really good run defense, and they switched more to man-to-man like about a month and a half into the season, and their run defense got much better, but their secondary got much worse. Last week, AJ Brown returned from his injury. He had a 76% snap share, and he turned an insane 16 targets. He had 16 targets into 145 yards and a TD. And he's had 10 days of rest since then, too, because that game was on Thursday night, which is pretty big for a guy like AJ Brown who's struggled with injuries really throughout his whole career, definitely this season. And we know he's going to be the focal point of the offense. once again. There's no Derrick Henry. There's no Julio Jones. Walter has A.J. Brown projected for 86 yards this week. I think the prop should have been set at 85.5. So they're like 15 yards off. So I'd like the A.J. Brown prop. Top 5 QBs this week. Yeah, if you come to the YouTube Live, link is in the TikTok bio. You can see my top 10 rankings every single position. I actually have the QBs up right now. My top 5 QBs: Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert. Right after them is Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance. Start Najee Harris. Yeah, you just have to. You got to start Najee Harris. Like, you just can't bench him. He sees too much volume to bench. Like, I understand the concerns about Najee Harris, but you need to start him. You definitely need to start him. Najee Harris has seen at least 14 touches in, I think, every game this season, except for week 12, where he picked up an injury. Last week he had 19 carries, even though he played a season low snap percentage. Like, he just sees too much volume. You got to start Najee Harris. You got to start Najee Harris. Boyd or Landry? Boyd or Landry? Probably Landry. I'd probably go Landry over Boyd. Huntley or Trey Lance? Yeah, I'm starting Lance this week. It's Trey Lance week. Appreciate you. I got you, Brett. I got you, man. I appreciate you appreciating me. And honestly, I say this at least once a stream. I said it in, I think, my second last TikTok video. I genuinely think time is the most valuable thing we have. So I seriously appreciate everyone spending some time in the live. And I appreciate all your support this season too, guys. Seriously. We've grown so much this season together, and none of it would have been possible without all of you. So I appreciate all of you as well. Thanks for the help all this season. I got you, man. Sam the man, Edmonds, Parker, Abdullah. Yeah, we labeled Abdullah as a trap, I think 3 weeks ago. So definitely not Abdullah. And Howard, pick 2, half PPR. And the chip, thanks to you. Yeah, I would probably go with the first 2. I know Javante Parker put up a donut last week, a pretty brutal donut, as Jalen Waddle just went absolutely off. But I don't think he's going to put up a donut again in this game. And like, I feel like Javante Parker has actually been consistent this season. Let me pull up his numbers really quickly. But to me, he's definitely better than those other options. But certainly you're starting Chase Edmonds. James Conner's dealing with an injury. He's playing. I think he's going to play. But the Cardinals are also underdogs in their game today for really one of the first times all season. Yeah, so Javante Parker hasn't played that much this year. He hasn't played that much. But he's had at least 8 fantasy points in every single game until last week where he had 0. He didn't even have a target. Like, I would be really surprised if he goes back-to-back games with a performance like that. I think he gets at least 8 points today. But he could easily go for more, too, against not a very scary Titan secondary. So, yeah, I like Devontae Parker more. Swift or Michael Carter? Yeah, I'm going Swift. I'm going Swift over Carter. Carter's it's just such a tough matchup against the Buccaneers. I still think he's going to get 15-plus touches. I would start him over a guy like Agumba Wale, for example, but I'm not starting him in that situation. Jarrett Patterson or Mike Williams? Yeah, it's got to be Mike Williams. But we got a little add-on to the player prop in the YouTube live chat. Let me see if I can scroll back to this comment. If I can't find it, apparently the A.J. Brown reception prop's at 5.5. 5.5. So free add-on to the A.J. Brown over 70.5 receiving yards. Parlay that with over 5.5 catches. Both those are happening today. Both those are happening. Pick 1 PPR for the championship: Rashad Penny, Cordero Patterson, Hunter Renfrow, Jacoby Myers. Yeah, it's Renfrow. It's got to be Renfrow. It's Penny or Renfrow. Those are the 2 guys here. Penny might be a tiny bit safer, but you got to go Renfrow. With Darren Waller still out, it's got to be Renfrow. Hey, Sam, big fan. Thanks, man. Quick question. Before we go for the championship, Mike Williams or Cordero Patterson flex half PPR? Yeah, I think you go with Mike Williams. Weatherman Sam, Edmonds, Penny, or Agumba Wale. Yeah, I would probably rank them in this order. Edmonds number 1, Penny number 2, Agumba Wale number 3. Half PPR makes Edmonds and Penny closer. Full PPR, I think there's a bigger gap there because Edmonds is going to get targets today. But Agumba Wale is definitely a distant third. I would only start one of those first 2 guys. Let's check out the NFL weather report today. I part time as Weatherman Sam on these live streams. This has been a pretty easy season in terms of weather. I feel like past seasons have been crazier in terms of weather, but this season really we had that one super windy game for the Patriots, and that's the only game all season that's had wind over 25 miles an hour. And again, I've done my own independent research on this, and the biggest statistically significant impact on NFL offenses that we really should care about is wind over 25 miles an hour. Like that has a very significant impact. Everything else, we can have players that do really, really well in games with rain, in snow, in cold. All right, but let's go through the weather report really quickly. There is potentially some rain in the Patriots game against the Jaguars. Could lean to even more run heavy than we already would have seen. The windiest game of the week looks like it's going to be the Giants versus the Bears. So if you needed any more reason to start the Bears defense, there it is. 14-mile-an-hour winds, though. So really, it's not anything to be super concerned about. The Cardinals-Cowboys game is supposed to have 15-mile-an-hour winds, but it's still not that much to be concerned about. The Bears-Giants game is also going to be pretty cold, 24 degrees. But the coldest game of the week, it's going to be the night game. The Packers versus the Vikings. It's supposed to be 11 degrees. 11 degrees Fahrenheit in the Vikings-Packers game. So that probably is not going to impact the game very much. I'm not scared of 11-degree weather. I don't think the players are either. Other than that, not too much weather to report. Yet again, this week, Week 17, championship week, it's been a pretty clear skies this season. So make sure you tune in next week for Weatherman Sam again. To add to the prop, A.J. Brown over 5.5 receptions is free. It's free. It's basically free. If A.J. Brown doesn't get injured in this game, which of course he feels like he's at a pretty high risk for re-injury every week, but if he doesn't, he's going for 6 catches and over 75 yards. Like he just is. The Dolphins secondary is not stopping him. Lance or Huntley? It's Lance. It's Lance over Burrow too. It's Lance over Burrow. Hey Sam, Michael Pittman or CeeDee Lamb and defense, Packers or Titans standard for the championship. Let's go. We're in the championship. Star 444. I appreciate it. I would go CeeDee Lamb over Michael Pittman for sure. And I would definitely go the Packers defense over the Titans defense as well. I would go Packers and CeeDee Lamb. I think those are relatively easy decisions. Of course, there's no such thing as a super easy decision in fantasy. Hey, wonderful, beautiful people. Wow, I love the positivity in the TikTok live today. Seriously, I appreciate all the positivity. I appreciate I feel like as time has gone on, I've been on fantasy football TikTok for a long time now, like a year and a half. I think one of the longest among all the fantasy football TikTokers. It feels like as time has gone on, it's gotten more toxic. You know, there's just more like toxicity in the fantasy football TikTok world these days, which isn't that surprising. Like everywhere in social media, there's toxic. But I appreciate the positivity that you guys all share, and I'm going to continue to try to just be positive. Be positive, man. I will not engage in toxic discourse. All right, hey Sam, love the WalterPicks app. It's amazing. Thanks, man. Who should I start at flex? Devontae Parker, Jordan Howard, or Terry McLaurin, half PPR? Devontae Parker, Jordan Howard, Terry McLaurin. You can't start McLaurin. I honestly like Devontae Parker more than McLaurin this week. I know Devontae Parker put up a donut last week. That honestly, though, like he's not doing that this week. He's not putting up a donut this week against the Titans. There's almost no chance that happens. Jordan Howard is an interesting one. Like him and Boston Scott, they're going to split carries in a game where they're 6-point favorites. He should have a pretty good shot at a touchdown, but he's definitely risky. Like if Jordan Howard does not score a touchdown, he's probably not going over 5 points. But if he does, he's probably going to be a top 24 running back. And he definitely has a good chance at it. But in a PPR league, honestly, I think I'm going Devontae Parker. Over both those guys. Damian Harris or Devontae Smith at flex. PPR. I think it's Damian. I think it's Damian Harris. I think it's Damian Harris against the Jaguars. Damian Harris had 3 touchdowns last week. It's a good matchup for Devontae Smith too, but Damian Harris is definitely safer. Do we trust Alvin Kamara? You have to. You have to trust Kamara. He's my number 2 running back this week. Got to trust him. You got to trust him. Does he get a big bump with Ingram? I don't think it's a huge bump. Lucas, I don't think it's a huge bump, but it's a bump. It's nonetheless a bump because Tony Jones is significantly worse than Mark Ingram. just like so much worse. Hey, Sam made it to the championship. Have to thank you and Walter. Thanks, Ricky. I appreciate it. Pick 2, Damian Harris, Rashad Penny, Agumba Wale, also Mac Daddy or Derek Carr. Carr PPR hasn't been doing much lately point-wise. Yeah, I actually think Mac Jones is kind of a sneaky start. The QBs against the Jaguars have, I think, scored at least 15 points in 4 straight games. Let me pull this up just to double check. And they haven't played the best quarterbacks. But like there is this concern with the Patriots passing attack every week, especially in a game like this one where they're 17-point favorites in this game, which is too many points. It's too many points. But they're 17-point favorites in this game against the Jaguars. And like if they get an early lead, they're just going to run the ball. Like they've shown it so many times this season. They want to run the ball. They don't want to put Mac Jones at risk, and they want to make things easy for him. But the Jaguars have allowed the 10th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. They allowed over 15 points to Zach Wilson. They allowed over 15 points to Davis Mills. They allowed over 15 points to Ryan Tannehill in their last 3 games. So I think I'd go Mac Jones. I like Mac Daddy. I like Mac and Cheese Mac Jones too. Damian Harris, Penny, and Agumba Wale. Yeah, I would probably rank those guys in that order. I think Damian Harris 1, Penny 2, Agumba Wale 3. Actually, Ricky, I don't think like if you start Damian Harris and Mac Jones, they're 17-point favorites. At least one of them scoring a touchdown. Like together, Damian Harris and Mac Jones could combine for 5 touchdowns. They're 17-point favorites today. So I don't hate starting both of them. Swift, T, Zeke, or AJ Brown in flex, and Lance or Dak in the ship. Yeah, I'm starting Lance over Dak. I'm starting Trey Lance over Dak. It definitely there's some risk here, but honestly, how risky is it really? Because Trey Lance, his last game, he had 89 rushing yards, 15 carries, and today he's going against the league worst rushing defense. So his floor, to me, is 80 rushing yards today. That gives him a good fantasy floor. I'm starting him over Dak, and then I'm not benching AJ Brown. I'm not benching AJ Brown. Just take your memory back 10 days ago in the Thursday night game that AJ Brown put on, and it'll become very clear that the Titans are going to feed AJ Brown the ball this game. Elijah Mitchell or Ronald Jones. Yeah, both these guys are in such good matchups. They're both in such good matchups. But I'm going Elijah Mitchell over Ronald Jones. I have Elijah Mitchell ranked as my number 10 running back. Ronald Jones, I think, is my number 12 running back this week. If you come to the YouTube live, link is in the TikTok bio. You can see my top 10 rankings every position, by the way. But the running backs are at the bottom of the screen right now on the YouTube live. Elijah Mitchell's my number 10 running back. I think he's just, first of all, a way better player than Ronald Jones. Like he's really not that close. He has somehow even a slightly better matchup than Ronald Jones. So I'm going with Elijah Mitchell. There is more injury risk with Elijah Mitchell than Ronald Jones, but I'm still going Elijah Mitchell. I think Elijah Mitchell, literally his ceiling is in the 40s. I think his ceiling is in the 40, like he could go over 40 fantasy points. That's his ceiling. You don't want to bench a guy like that. I don't think Ronald Jones has that ceiling. Snowing in the Titans game. Wait, let me pull this back up. Snowing in the Titans game. I'm seeing a 40-degree forecast in the Titans game. So I don't think it's going to be snowing. I could be wrong. This might be a little out of date. Rain until evening. So maybe it's going to rain, but I don't think it's going to snow. 40 degrees, that's not cold enough, man. It's not cold enough. What's the freezing point? It's got to be under 4. I think it's in the 30s. I forget what it is. It's not good. Weatherman Sam's got to know the freezing point. Hey, Sam, I'm in the championship thanks to you. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about, man. Choose 3. Saquon, Montgomery, Ronald Jones, Elijah Mitchell, PPR. These are all good options. Honestly, David Montgomery is a guy that I really want to be starting today. You really want to be starting him. He hasn't been that efficient this season, and especially the last 3 weeks. His efficiency has been a little disappointing. But the volume's been there. The volume's been there for Elijah Mitchell. Excuse me, for David Montgomery. But the volume's been there for Elijah Mitchell too. I think I would start those two. And then Ronald Jones versus Saquon Barkley is definitely a tough choice. But I would probably just go with Ronald Jones. I think you're going to win this week if you're able to start Ronald Jones, Elijah Mitchell, and David Montgomery. You could have 60-plus touches across those 3 guys right there. Again, guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, thanks so much for tuning in. Hit the follow button, and then go to my bio, hit the follow button, and then come to the YouTube live. Because in the YouTube live, you can see my top 10 rankings every position. And then if you're tuned in on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I set a goal, by the way, this season. At the very beginning of the year, we had, I think, like 3,000 YouTube subscribers, and the goal this year was to hit 10K. And we're not gonna get there, but we made some good progress, man. We made some good progress. We're almost at 6,000. We could get to 6,000 YouTube subscribers right now if everyone tuned in, came to the YouTube Live, hit that subscribe button, and then we all go win our fantasy football championships. That talk about a good week 17. AJ Brown or St. Brown? It got to be AJ Brown. It's got to be AJ Brown. Don't bench AJ Brown this week. I'm telling you, do not bench AJ Brown this week. Swift or Sony for the ship? Yeah, Blitz, dude, this is not easy. Not easy one. Swift is just generally not an easy guy to be starting right now. But I think I would go Swift. over Sony Michel. It's definitely close, though. It's definitely close, especially if it's a PPR league. I think that makes it much easier. Makes it much easier. I got Chubb and Penny in as my running backs. Deontay Johnson and A.J. Brown as wide receivers and CD at flex. Should I put in Elijah? I'm assuming this is Elijah Mitchell. In and bench anyone. Yeah, you got to start Elijah Mitchell over Penny. You have to start Elijah Mitchell over Penny. In my opinion, I'm starting Mitchell over Penny 10 times out of 10. Penny gets the Lions. It's a good matchup for Rashad Penny, but Elijah Mitchell gets the Texans, the league worst rushing defense. So yeah, I'm going with Elijah Mitchell. Guys, if you are tuned into the YouTube Live, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 6K subscribers. That'll be an exciting accomplishment. Is Garoppolo starting? Nope. Garoppolo's not starting. And honestly, I think there's a much better chance than people realize that we never see Garoppolo starting for the 49ers ever again. I genuinely think that's more likely than not. And I think that's a bold take right now. Like, I don't think that's the general perception across people that follow the NFL. But Trey Lance, you got to understand the upside for Trey Lance. And the reason that I think we can start him with a lot of confidence today and why I have him ranked number 7 in my quarterback rank is his floor. Because he's going to run the ball a lot. He had 15 carries in his last start back in week 5. And the Texans' run defense is horrible. But the real reason I think he could be the starter of the future starting right now for the 49ers is his ceiling is just so high. If he's actually grown as a passer over the last 2.5 months in practice, we may never see Jimmy Garoppolo again starting this week for the 49ers. I'm sure he'll find a starting job somewhere. Darrell Williams or Cordero Patterson? Yeah, I'm going Williams over Patterson. It's so tough to trust Patterson around. In a championship, Swift or DJ Moore or Michael Carter or Devontae Smith or Monroe St. Brown at flex. A lot of options here for Chase. Also Stafford or Josh Allen. You can't bench Josh Allen. Josh Allen's the number 1 overall quarterback this week against the Falcons. You cannot bench him. I like Stafford against the Ravens, don't get me wrong, but you can't bench Josh Allen. And then DJ Moore, Michael Carter, Devontae Smith, and Monroe St. Brown. Honestly, I think this one's between DJ Moore and Monroe St. Brown, and I would lean DJ Moore against the Saints over Monroe St. Brown against the Seahawks. Pick 2, Hollywood Cooks or Monroe St. Brown. Yeah, it's the last two. It's got to be Cooks and Monroe there. Bears or Dolphins defense? Bears defense, man. Bears defense against Mike Lennon and Jake Fromm. 100%. That's what you got to do. Championship, Sony or Barkley? Yeah, I'm going Barkley over Sony. I'm starting Barkley over Sony. Sorry, I think I skipped a question there. My bad. You can send the comment back in. I'll get to you, I promise. We are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube on this Championship Sunday. Thank you all for tuning in. We got William Schaefer in the chat on YouTube saying he's made it to the championship from tuning into these live streams and by using the WalterPicks app. Guys, if you haven't downloaded the WalterPicks app yet, it's completely free to download. It's available on the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store now, and it can help answer a lot of your start-sit questions. The way the app is built is it gives you all the information you need by using machine learning and the most accurate projections and by giving each player a boom and bust probability so that you can confidently make your own decision. So check out the app. It's free. Why not try it out? Pick 1, PPR, Monroe St. Brown, Javonte Williams, Jamar Chase, or Brandon Cooks. Yeah, you have to start Jamar Chase. You have to start Jamar Chase. You can't bench Jamar Chase. It just has to be him. I like all of these options, but you got to start Jamar Chase. Saquon or Brandon Cooks, full PPR. Not an easy decision here, JW. But I think you go Saquon. I do like Brandon Cooks against the 49ers. I do. I think he has a good ceiling. But it's tough to not play Saquon Barkley in your fantasy football championship. Sam, I need help one more time for the ship. Logan, let's do this, man. PPR league, Cordell Patterson, Elijah Mitchell, or Amon-Ra St. Brown. It has to be Elijah Mitchell. It's got to be. I'm playing Elijah Mitchell over DeAndre Swift. I'm playing him over Cordell Patterson. I'm playing him over Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then after that, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Swift is tough. Amon-Ra St. Brown against Swift is not easy. I think I would go Swift over Amon-Ra St. Brown. I do. I don't feel good about it, but I think that's what I would do. Thank you, Zach. I do appreciate it, by the way. All right, here's another one. We got Mitchell, Javonte, Swift, Sony. Again, you got to start Elijah Mitchell. Guys, you have to start Elijah Mitchell. Against the Texans, we've been through this with the Texans. Remember the breakout game from Rashad Penny? Like, we were starting Rashad Penny with confidence against the Texans. We definitely need to be starting Elijah Mitchell against the Texans. I know there's like a little bit of injury risk here with Elijah Mitchell, but start him. The other three, I think, are close. I think Sony is a little bit of a step back, honestly, from the other two, though. Javonte Williams versus the Chargers is tough to ignore. We know the Chargers' run defense is also really bad, bottom 5 run defense. Obviously, he's going to be splitting some work with Melvin Gordon, who's also going to play today. And it's a hashtag revenge game for Melvin Gordon against the Chargers. And they didn't end that relationship on a very good note either. Melvin Gordon wanted to get paid, and they were not having it. But I think I would probably go the first two here. I think I would go Javonte and Mitchell. I think Javonte Williams, his ceiling's so high. He could get 12 carries in this game and still do really well. Hey, Sam, thanks for taking me to the chip. With starting A.J. Brown last week anyway, Chase, Javonte, or Smith. Yeah, we all started. If you tuned into the live last week, you started A.J. Brown if you had A.J. Brown, and it probably helped you get to the championship. So I'm pumped to hear that, Lou. A.J. Brown went absolutely off on Thursday, and he's going to go absolutely off today too. He's the free prop pick today, by the way, over 17.5 receiving yards, and his reception props at 5.5 too. So I'll absolutely love that one as well. All right, Jamar Chase, Javonte Williams, or Smith. Yeah, it's got to be Jamar, man. It's got to be Jamar. Has to be Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase's ceiling is just, it's too good to bench him at this point. Do I start Amari Cooper, OBJ, or Michael Carter? Also Gronk or Knox. It definitely Gronk over Knox. The tight end position, I think, is actually like really clear cut in week 17. The top 4 guys are in their own tier, like completely by themselves. Like here's tier 1, where you have Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, and Rob Gronkowski. The Jets have been a bottom 10 defense against tight ends this season, and there's no Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans is only going to be playing on a limited basis, and Antonio Brown's dealing with an ankle injury. Gronk could be the leading receiver for the Buccaneers today. After those 4, there's like a huge drop-off. Like tier 2 is way down here, and tier 1's way up here for the tight ends in week 17. So yeah, definitely start Gronk. And Knox is in that second tier, by the way. Amari Cooper, Odell Beckham Jr., or Michael Carter. Yeah, it's got to be Amari Cooper or OBJ. Michael Carter against the Bucs. I do think Michael Carter could surprise some people even in a tough matchup. Like I think he still is going to rush over 50 yards, and I think he's going to lead the Jets in touches. But it's not a good matchup, so you can't start him over Cooper or OBJ. OBJ is a guy that I really want to start. He is a guy that I really want to start. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is going to go off against the Ravens. Like he has a really high ceiling against the Ravens. And Mark Cooper, though, is coming off one of his best games of the season. And Amari Cooper's also playing in a game that has the highest over-under of the week against the Cardinals. So last week, Amari Cooper, 21.5 fantasy points. He had 11 targets, 7 catches, 85 yards, and a TD. But the week before that, he had under 3 points. He's been he's been much more inconsistent than he had been in the past this season. Meanwhile, Odell Beckham Jr. is coming off his second highest snap share since he joined the Rams. He played like 98% of the snaps in, I think, his second game with the Packers, against the Packers, excuse me. But, guys, he's playing the Ravens. And just look at the Ravens last game. And I think that's enough for me to decide on OBJ over Amari Cooper here. Look at the Ravens last game. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd all went over 85 yards. They all went over 85 yards against the Ravens. OBJ is going to do the exact same thing. He's going to do the exact same thing. Start Odell, man. Sam, I need help. Please pick 3. Mitchell, Swift, Mixon, Rojo. Yeah, I'm going Mitchell. And I'm definitely starting Mixon. And I think I would go Ronald Jones over Swift. I don't think you can bench Mitchell or Mixon. What makes you think Mitchell would get the workload? With so many other options, Wilson, Hasty, Debo, and they wouldn't want to risk Elijah Mitchell. Yeah, so the 49ers, this is a must-win game for them. This is a must-win game. Like, I agree with the two of the three guys you mentioned. I don't think JaMychal Hasty will even touch the ball once in this game. So I'm not concerned about Hasty. I think that the 49ers, though, they will risk Mitchell because they need to win. And the 49ers have made it very clear in every single game that Elijah Mitchell has played that they view Elijah Mitchell as much, much better than Jeff Wilson. Now, they're also massive favorites against the Texans. If they lose this game against the Texans, their chance at the playoffs really becomes like a 50-50 shot. If they win this game against the Texans, they're almost definitely making the playoffs. And they got a game against the Rams next week. It's not an easy game for them against the Rams next week. But if they win now and lose to the Rams, they're still probably getting into the playoffs. So I expect Elijah Mitchell to see minimum 15 carries in this game for that reason. Every single game that Elijah Mitchell has played, he's been used. So there's real injury risk. There's definitely real injury risk. But I don't think they would put him in the game at all if the injury risk was that high. I don't. So I won't be surprised if he gets over 20 carries in this game and he just absolutely stampedes the Texans. And I think that ceiling is why you just have to start him. He's had at least 18 carries in his last 5 healthy games. So I understand the concern about injury, but I'm not worried about JaMychal Hasty. I do think they will risk Elijah Mitchell because it's a must-win game too. And honestly, I'm not that scared about Jeff Wilson either. Like they don't think Jeff Wilson is that good. Burkhead or Jordan Howard. Burkhead dominated last week. Burkhead was like the DFS play last week. If you played Burkhead, you probably cashed. But I don't think I trust him as much this week against the 49ers. I would probably go Jordan Howard. Huntley or Hill. That one's close. I'd probably go Huntley over Hill, though. Huntley's just in a better offense than Taysom Hill is. He seems like he's much better at throwing the ball, too. Sam, who should I put in at flex? Damian Williams. I'm assuming you mean Darrell Williams. Sony, Mike Williams, or Patterson. Thanks. Yeah, I think that it's Darrell Williams. I think it's Darrell Williams. Kamara or Rojo? Yeah, you got to start Kamara. You got to start Alvin Kamara. Have to start him. Huntley or Lance? I'm starting Lance over Huntley. I'm starting Lance over a lot of quarterbacks this week. I'm starting Lance over Joe Burrow. I'm starting Lance over Dak Prescott. I'm starting Lance over Matthew Stafford. I'm starting Lance over Aaron Rodgers. Those are some of the big names I'm starting Lance over. I'm not going to start him over Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, or Jalen Hurts. But other than that, I'm starting Trey Lance. Hey, Sam, championship pick. Edmonds, Penny, or Scott at running back 2. Yeah, it can't be Scott. It can't be Scott. Don't get me wrong. Boston Scott and Jordan Howard. They both do have kind of an interesting ceiling with no Miles Sanders in the game this week, but you can't trust him. You definitely can't trust him as much as you can Edmonds and Penny. And in a full PPR league, I think this one's actually super close. Like, James Conner's going to play. It's definitely close. This one's very close. If James Conner wasn't playing, it would definitely be Edmonds. I think I would go Edmonds over Penny. Honestly, I think I would go Edmonds over Penny. I think the floors are similar and the ceiling's higher for Edmonds. St. Brown, Renfro, or OBJ at flex. Yeah, it's Renfro or OBJ for me here. Renfro, I would argue that Odell Beckham Jr. has the highest ceiling on this list. He's got the highest ceiling on this list. Again, just look at the Ravens' last game, and it's so hard to bench Odell Beckham Jr. when you consider the last game the Ravens just played. Over 100 yards to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, over 85 yards to Tyler Boyd. I think we see something similar from OBJ this week. I think he goes over 80 yards and a TD. Rodgers or Hurts? I'm going Jalen Hurts over Aaron Rodgers for sure. Waddle or Higgins championship week? Yeah, both Waddle and Higgins are really good options. They're both good options. But I think I would probably go with Higgins over Waddle. I think I'd go Higgins over Waddle. What up, Sam? Somehow in the ship with all the injuries. Rodgers or Stafford and Dillon, Jarrett Patterson or Penny? Yeah, it's got to be Penny over Jarrett Patterson and Dillon. And I would probably play Rodgers over Stafford. I might be underrating Stafford a little bit, though. Again, the Ravens secondary is just so bad. It's just so bad. I think Rodgers is a pretty good bet, though, against the Vikings, too. Hey, Sam, need some help for the championship in the flex. Tony Pollard or Saquon? Yeah, Saquon. It's got to be Saquon. It's got to be Saquon. If you have Saquon Barkley and you're in the fantasy football finals, you kind of have to do it. I was here last year at 3K subs. Thanks, man. I also made the shift. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Sony, Penny, or Singletary, pick two, please. I think it's the last two. I am nervous about Sony Michel. I'm nervous about Sony Michel. I know that he dominated the snaps and the carries last week over Darrell Henderson, but Darrell Henderson's still lurking. He's still lurking. Sony Michel's over-under rushing prop today is 69.5. I would take the under there. I would take the under. Rashad Penny's rushing prop is very similar. I think it's 64.5. But I think he's got a better chance to have a big game than Sony Michel. The Rams could give Darrell Henderson some of the valuable touches. Singletary's been dominating the backfield too for the Bills. I think I would probably go Penny and Singletary. Definitely all three guys, though, are pretty decent options. Rashad Penny or Burkhead, it's got to be Penny. It's got to be Penny over Burkhead for sure. Can I really trust Lance in the ship this week if he's only started a few games this year? Thanks so much, by the way. You helped me win the ship last year. Zach, that's what I'm talking about, man. Back-to-back championships is what I'm talking about. That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. The second you win the championship this year, too, you take the day, celebrate, and then tomorrow we're going back to 3 straight, Zach. But no, you can. Henderson is out for the season. Let me double check this. I'm going to go back to the Trey Lance thing in a second. But that would actually definitely change my answer here to the Sony Michel question. Darrell Henderson placed on IR. He was placed on IR. Good. This is a good call out. There's been a lot of news, by the way, like a ton of news. This is last season, I think, set the record for like how much news was coming out during each fantasy week. This week, I think, doubled it somehow. But yeah, you got to start Sony Michel for sure now, 100%. Yeah, I would start Sony Michel over Rashad Penny, and I would start him over Amon-Ra St. Brown. I forget the third running back that was in there that you were asking about. I'd probably start him over DeAndre Swift. Sony Michel is a much better option than I realized based on this news. Let me make sure Darrell Henderson is updated in the WalterPicks app. He probably is. Let's see here. But yeah, you got to start Sony Michel. You got to start Sony Michel. The Rams are 6.5-point favorites too. Yeah, it is updated in the WalterPicks app. So Sony Michel is a much better start than I realized. That was my bad. And Saucy X Brandon, thanks for calling that out. But yeah, back to the question about Trey Lance. And if you can trust him, even though he's only started a few games, can we trust Trey Lance in the fantasy football championship? And the answer is yes. Let's just look at his last game. Let's look at his last game. He came back in week 5, and he struggled as a passer in that game. He completed 52% of his passes, but he had 15 carries, and over half of those carries were designed runs. And that game was against the Arizona Cardinals, who were undefeated at the time, and at the time were a top 10 defense. And fast forward to today, 2.5 months later, where the coaching staff has said themselves, Trey Lance has taken strides over the last 2.5 months. And he gets to play the Texans today, the worst rushing defense in the NFL. And certainly a worse passing defense than the Arizona Cardinals were back in week 5. So to me, the floor for Trey Lance is why you can trust him. Like he's probably going to rush for 80+ yards again. Against the Texans, I think he's going for 80+ rushing yards and a TD. And right there, you got 15 fantasy points. And then you add in his ceiling as a passer if he actually has made strides. And you have 40 points within Trey Lance's range of outcomes. That's why you can trust him. Is there added risk because we've seen less games? Yeah. But the 2 games he started, the 2 games where he's played, more than half the snaps, he went over 15 points in both of them. I think he's easily going over 15 points today. The new JV running back or Boston Scott? Boston Scott, I guess. Hey, Sam, what should I do for flex, DK or Rashad Penny? Yeah, I'd probably go Penny over DK Metcalf. Lance or Kyler? It's got to be Kyler. Singletary or Swift? That one's close. I think I'd lean Singletary. Sony Michel over Ronald Jones is also close. It's a better matchup for Ronald Jones, though. It's a better match. And the Bucs are even bigger favorites than the Rams. I still think I would go Ronald Jones over Sony Michel. Russell Gage, that one said Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb. I think I would still go Justin Jefferson over CeeDee Lamb, even though we got Sean Mannion starting. Russell Gage or Michael Gallup or Jacoby Myers at flex. It's probably Gage or Myers. There's no Nelson Aguilar this week, which I think is a slight bump for Jacoby Myers and for Kendrick Bourne. But I still think Russell Gage is the better option here. It's too tough to trust Michael Gallup at this point. Pick 2 PPR, Antonio Brown, AJ Brown, Diggs, or Waddle. Yet Hunter Powers. You got to start all 3 of these first guys. All 3 of these guys. I would rank them though. If I pull my top 10 wide receivers again, if you're watching live on TikTok, you can see my top 10 rankings every position. If you come to the TikTok bio and come to the YouTube live, thanks for the gift, by the way, in the TikTok live. I do appreciate that. But if I pull my top 10 receivers, you got 3 top 10 receivers here. Antonio Brown's ranked number 8 for me. AJ Brown is ranked number 7, and Stephon Diggs is ranked number 4. So I would go Diggs, AJ Brown, then Antonio Brown. Diggs, AJ Brown, then Antonio Brown. Waddle's more like a top 20 option. He's not a top 10 option. Brandon Cooks or Ronald Jones? I would go Ronald Jones. Can you get into more detail about why Parker over Waddle? I don't think Devontae Parker over Waddle. I don't know if I accidentally said that. I like Waddle more than Parker. But I do think Devontae Parker, he can be started in some situations. And I won't be that surprised if he outscores Jalen Waddle. And definitely I think that Devontae Parker is just being more slept on than Jalen Waddle right now. Jalen Waddle has so much hype, and people are very down on Devontae Parker. But no, Jalen Waddle is probably going to outscore Devontae Parker. He's out-targeting him. I just don't think we're going to see another donut from Devontae Parker in this game. But I definitely wouldn't say I got Parker ahead of Waddle. Kyle Pitts or Goddard? For me, it's Kyle Pitts, but it's super close. I would not knock you for going Goddard over Kyle Pitts at all. My top 10 tight ends, really, there's 2 tiers for tight ends this week. There's tier 1, which is way up here. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, Rob Gronkowski. And then right, way, way, way down here is the next tier, led by Kyle Pitts, and then Dallas Goedert. So they're really close. Dallas Goedert had his career best game 2 weeks ago against the same defense he's playing today. So, he's not a bad play. It's not a bad play. Rashad Penny or Sony Michel? Yeah, it's Sony over Rashad Penny. It's Sony over Rashad Penny 100%. 100% it is. Sam, pick 1 half PPR. Zach Moss. AB, CeeDee Lamb, Michelle. Sorry, I'm skipping around here. I would probably go Antonio Brown, though, over CeeDee Lamb and Michelle. I have CeeDee Lamb ranked number 10 and Antonio Brown ranked number 8. Yeah, you just can't bench Antonio Brown. You can't bench him. Eagles or 49ers at defense? Probably the 49ers. If you have Hurts at QB, I do like the Goddard stack. I do like the Goddard Hurts stack. Ertz or Pitts? Yeah, I'd go Pitts. I'd go Pitts over Ertz. Sam, my guy. Tua, Huntley or AJ Brown? Oh, this one's tough. It's Huntley or Brown. I'd probably go Huntley. I really, if you got a super flex, you got to play QB in that spot. But you should find another spot for AJ Brown. He's a top 7 wide receiver this week. Waddle or Keenan Allen? It's got to be Keenan. Hurts or Lance? Yeah, I'm starting Hurts over Lance. I have them 1 spot ahead. Scantling or Howard? I think I would go Jordan Howard over Scantling. I think Scantling, Howard has a much better chance at a touchdown than Scantling. Tyler Huntley or Trey Lance? Yeah, this is the question of the day, I think. And I'm going with Lance. There's only 6 QBs I'm starting over Lance. And Tyler Huntley is not one of them. Gesicki or Pitts? Yeah, I'm going Pitts over Gesicki. Tua or Mills? I think Tua over Mills, but Mills has surprised me. We might actually have something there with Mills. I still think Davis Mills, the most likely outcome for Davis Mills is he's kind of a career backup in the NFL. But he's had some good moments, and he's had some good games. He's gone over 15 points 3 straight games now. And I was most impressed in his last game against a pretty good Chargers defense. He threw for 250 yards and 2 TDs, no interceptions. And the 49ers secondary is not that scary. Davis Mills could do well today. Love the app and the content. Thanks, man. Championship decision, Eagles or Bears defense? Yeah, if you have the Bears defense, you just have to start them. Taysom or Trey? I'm going Trey over Taysom. I'm going Trey over Taysom Hill. If you're looking at the running quarterbacks today, Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance, Taysom Hill, Tyler Huntley, Kyler Murray, I would rank them like this. Kyler Murray number 1, Jalen Hurts number 2, Trey Lance number 3, Tyler Huntley number 4, and Taysom Hill number 5. Taysom Hill is the worst supporting cast, and he's the worst thrower of the whole group. But they all have a pretty good floor because of their rushing. Like, they all have that good floor. OBJ or St. Brown, I'm not playing St. Brown over Odell Beckham Jr. And this could be wrong. This could be wrong. Of course it could be wrong. But it's so tough to be benching the Rams receivers against the Ravens. The Ravens secondary has been destroyed this season. I mean, really, it's such a bad secondary. I mean, they've dealt with a lot of injuries in their defense. But the Ravens secondary, just look at last week, and how are you not going to start Odell Beckham Jr. this week? Last week, after the comments made about Joe Burrow not being a Hall of Fame level quarterback, which I guess he took personally. Tyler Boyd, 85 yards, TD. Jamar Chase, 125 yards, no touchdown. T. Higgins, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns. The week before that, Devontae Adams scored. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling scored and went for 98 yards. The week before that, Donovan Peoples-Jones went for 90 yards. The week before that, Deontay Johnson went for 105 yards and 2 TDs. The week before that, Jarvis Landry went over 100 yards. The week before that, Marquise Goodwin went for 100 yards and a TD, and Darnell Mooney went for 120 yards and a TD. I mean, they've had such a insane stretch of just getting torched through the air that you got to start Odell. And you got to obviously start Cooper Kupp. And like Matthew Stafford is probably top 8 option. I should probably have him in my top 8. I don't have him in my top 8 right now, but he should probably be in there. Yo, Sam just gave the WalterPicks app a 5-star review. Yeah, thanks, man. Carson, I appreciate that. Gabriel Davis or Dare Agumba-Wally, thanks again for all your help. We're in the championship. Yeah, it's got to be Dare. It's got to be Dare, man. I think Agumba-Wally is a super sneaky play this week. The Patriots' run defense is worse than they get credit for. It's worse than they get credit for. It's been the clear weakness of the team the whole year. And they've also, the Patriots are going to be fine with the Jaguars running. They're 17-point favorites in this game. So I think that the Patriots are going to be fine with the Jaguars exploiting their weakness. As long as Agumba-Wally is not torching them for long runs, the Patriots are just going to let him run in this game. And in the last game, again, there's no – obviously Travis Etienne's been out for the whole year, but James Robinson tore his Achilles last week. And Carlos Hyde, the corpse of Carlos Hyde has been out for a few weeks now. And he's out again in this game. So it's Agumba-Wally's backfield. And he had 17 carries last week. If he sees 17 carries this week, you absolutely should have started him over Gabriel Davis. Dare versus A.J. Dillon is much, much closer. It's much closer. But honestly, I think I would go Dare over A.J. Dillon, with the Quadzilla himself. My favorite NFL player, A.J. Dillon. A championship decision, Sam. Hurts or Herbert? This one's tough, man. This one's tough. You don't want to be benching Justin Herbert, obviously. He doesn't have the best matchup though against the Broncos. I have Herbert ranked 1 spot ahead of Hurts. Because I have Herbert ranked 1 spot ahead of Hurts. It's super close. I would argue though that Hurts has the better floor. He had, just because of the rushing. It's the rushing. He has a better floor. But Herbert has the higher ceiling. So this is how I would make the decision. If you look at your championship matchup, Alex, and you think that you are definitely the underdog, I would start Jalen Hurts. I would start Justin Herbert. If you think you're definitely the underdog, I would start Justin Herbert. If you think you're definitely the favorite, though, got to be Jalen Hurts, man. It's got to be Jalen Hurts. Darrell Williams or Amon-Ra St. Brown, yeah. I think it's Darrell Williams. Over Amon-Ra St. Brown. Love the app, man. Great day for a fantasy championship. It is a great day for a fantasy championship. It's been a great season for a fantasy championship. A lot of haters out there saying there's an asterisk this season. Going to be an asterisk this season because of all the injuries and all the guys that were on the COVID list. This is, if anything, winning a championship this year is even more impressive than past seasons because you could not have won the championship this year or gotten to the championship this year if you didn't grind. You had to grind this year. You had to find Amon-Ra St. Brown and you had to go find Elijah Mitchell and Cordell Patterson Like you had to scrape and claw your way to the championship this year, even more so than years past. All right. So it is a great day for the championship. Ronald Jones or Aaron Jones. This is not an easy one, but I think you got to go Aaron Jones. I think you have to play Aaron Jones in the championship. I like Ronald Jones. The Buccaneers are 14-point favorites against the Jets, and the Jets have allowed the most fantasy points to running backs this season. But I'm still going Aaron Jones. And especially the Packers are up against the Vikings, who are starting Sean Mannion at quarterback. The Vikings are going to get demolished in that game too. So I would go with Aaron Jones. I just don't bench Aaron Jones in the championship, man. It's just too tough to do. I also do I like Ronald Jones this week. I think Ronald Jones is going to have a good game. I think he's going to score a touchdown. But let's not forget that Ronald Jones isn't that good. He's not that good. He's not that talented. He's not a very talented running back. He's a below average talented running back. Is he fast? Yes, that's basically all he has. I still think he's going to do well against the Jets, but I do think there's more risk than people realize. He had 20 carries last week, though. If you get 20 carries against the Jets, it's hard not to have a good fantasy day. But Aaron Jones is just so much more talented than Ronald Jones that I'm willing to start Aaron Jones over Ronald Jones, despite likely seeing less touches and in a worse matchup. Just a quick question. Doesn't have any drastic changes in terms of me winning this week. Kyle, thanks for the honesty, man. I can always count on you for that. But I just want to know your thoughts, Van Jefferson, and if I should start him over Beasley. Yeah, Beasley's back, man. Beasley's back, and he gets a matchup against the Vikings. Against the Falcons. The tough thing about Beasley is how much is he going to be able to play after just coming off the COVID list? It seems like he's fine. It seems like he is asymptomatic and he didn't experience any symptoms at all. So I'm just going to ignore that part of the equation for a second. And I still think Van Jefferson has a much higher ceiling than Beasley against the Ravens. So I would probably go Van Jefferson. I would argue that Beasley, though, a fully healthy Beasley has a safer floor. Please respond. It's championship time. Which Eagle running back should I start? And thoughts on another good day for Rex? Yeah, I don't think Rex Burkhead's going to put up another huge day. And if I had to choose an Eagles running back, I would choose Jordan Howard, but I don't feel very strongly about that. I think pretty equal chance for both those guys, Boston Scott and Jordan Howard this week. It's almost game time. Guys, we are very close to kickoff. And usually I wrap up the stream around 9 minutes from now. So we're heading towards the witching hour of the WalterPicks live stream. This is, by the way, the real time that wins become losses and losses become wins in fantasy. It's when we are locking in our final fantasy decisions. This is really when you win the championship right now. Lockett, Amari, Ayuk, Jarvis, or Jacoby. It's got to be those first two, man. It's got to be those first two. Absolutely has to be those first two. Let me pull up one last time. I got a question here about the DFS lineup. We always end the live streams on YouTube. We always end them on YouTube. There's a few different reasons. We usually go rapid fire in the comment section at the end of the lives. And it's easier for me to pull up the comments in the live. But if I don't get to your start sit question in time, guys, make sure you're checking out the WalterPicks app, which can help you make your start sit decisions. The link to the app is in the TikTok bio and in the YouTube description. All right, really quickly running through the DraftKings lineup. I'll keep this on screen as I answer some final TikTok questions, but I will be live for 10 more minutes on YouTube. So if you want to stick around in the live stream, come to the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, link to that's also in the TikTok bio. Van Jefferson, Gallup, or MVS. Yeah, it's got to be Van Jefferson against the Ravens. A.J. Dillon or Agumba Wally. I'm going to Agumba Wally, man. I'm going to Agumba Wally. The Patriots' run defense has been weaker than they get credit for this season. Burrow or Murray, can't bench Kyler. David Montgomery or Eckler, can't bench Eckler either. Lockett or Waddle. That one's so tough. I feel like I've told too many people to bench Lockett today because we know what Lockett is. Lockett and Waddle are honestly very much opposites, right? Lockett is going to win you your week or he's going to score under 10 points. Waddle is almost definitely scoring over 10, but he really doesn't have that high of a ceiling. So if you think you're a big underdog, I'd go Lockett. Otherwise, Waddle's much safer in my opinion. DK or DJ Moore? Yeah, I'm going DJ Moore. Chase or Brown? I'm going A.J. Brown over Jamar Chase. I'm not benching A.J. Brown. I'm also not benching Antonio Brown this week. I'm not benching. All right, that's my time, guys, on the TikTok live. Again, we got 10 more minutes on the YouTube live. So if you want to try to get your final start sit question answered, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio, or check out the WalterPicks app. for free in the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store. Can help you get those start sit questions in. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. All right. Rapid fire for the questions in the YouTube Live. The best part of the stream. Guys, this is it. This is it for the fantasy season right here, right now. Of course, I'll be live next Sunday as well, walking us all through the DFS situations. And I'm sure there's some week 18 matchups that people will be thinking about too. All right. We got 10 minutes here. Patterson or DJ Moore at the flex. I'm nervous about Cordero Patterson. I would definitely play DJ Moore. Pick 2, Kamara, Javonte, Rojo, Damian Harris. You have to start Kamara. You need to start Alvin Kamara. Is it Kamara or Kamara? I go back and forth, but you got to start him. And then I would probably go Ronald Jones over Javonte and Damian Harris. I got to win the chip. We all got to win the chip, man. Kevin, this is what it's about. It's not about making the championship. It's about winning the championship, and that's going to start right now. I would probably play Dare Ogunbowale over Jared Patterson. I feel better about the workload for Dare than I do Patterson. Robbie Anderson or St. Brown? It's got to be St. Brown. Has to be St. Brown. Steven, he's gone over 15 points each of his last 4 games. Hey, Sam, please respond. Got you, Noah. Zeke or Cooks? It's got to be Zeke. It's got to be Zeke. I like Cooks, but it's got to be Zeke. Zeke is playing in the game. Really quickly on Zeke. I'm going to get to Higgins versus Waddle next. But really quickly on Zeke. When we drafted Ezekiel Elliott this season, the entire thesis around drafting Ezekiel Elliott was the touchdowns. We knew that the Dallas Cowboys had a top 5 offensive potential, which meant Zeke had top 5 touchdown upside. Zeke had a chance to lead the league in touchdowns this season. He's not, but he had a chance to do that. And then you fast forward, it's the championship, week 17. And Ezekiel Elliott's playing the Arizona Cardinals in a game that has the highest over-under of the week. Touchdown upside, man. You got to start Zeke. That's exactly why we drafted him. You can't bench Zeke. Higgins or Waddle? Yeah, I'd go Higgins over Waddle. Sam, Elijah Mitchell or Darrell Williams? Got to be Elijah Mitchell. Got to be Elijah Mitchell over Darrell Williams. It's really not that close. McLaurin, Osborne, Michael Gallup, Robbie Anderson, pick 2. You can't start Osborne. With Sean Mannion playing, you can't trust Osborne. You still have to start Jefferson, but you can't trust him as much either. I'd probably go Gallup over Anderson just because you can get a piece of that game, the Cardinals-Cowboys game, which is projected to be the highest scoring game of the week. So I'd probably go Gallup and McLaurin here. Anderson or Uzoma? Yeah, so Steven Anderson is the guy that I'm punting this week. I'm just punting the tight end position in daily fantasy. I still like Uzoma more, though. Stevenson has a better chance of 0 points than Uzoma. Help Javonte Williams or Rashad Penny. Yeah, this one's super close. But I think you go Javonte Williams against the Chargers. Stafford or Lance? I'm going Lance over Stafford. Both I like a lot this week, but I like Lance even more. Ronald Jones or Elijah Mitchell? I'm going Elijah Mitchell over Ronald Jones. Who would you say in a half PPR? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Lockett, Cooks, or OBJ? I haven't started St. Brown yet. Oh, no. Thanks again, Zach. I actually think that makes this decision even harder because you don't want the 1 week you start Amon-Ra St. Brown to be the 1 week that he doesn't go over 15 points. But you have good options, which makes sense why you haven't started Amon-Ra St. Brown. Honestly, I'm not starting Amon-Ra St. Brown over any of these 3. I think you stick to your guns here. And between Lockett, Cooks, and OBJ, I would probably rank these guys. I think Cooks is number 1, and OBJ is number 2, and Lockett's number 3. They're all really similar to me. All of them have really high upsides, but Cooks and OBJ have better matchups than Tyler Lockett. The 49ers and the Ravens secondaries are not very scary. Sony or Edmonds if Connor is out. I don't think Connor's going to be out, but if he is, I'd go Edmonds. If he's not, I'd go Sony. PPR, T. Higgins or Deontay Johnson at flex? Yeah, I'm rocking with – I think I'm rocking with Deontay Johnson, man. I think Deontay Johnson let us down for one of the first times recently, but he's just been too consistent to bench. He's been more consistent than almost every other receiver this season. So despite his recent struggles, I'm going Deontay over T. Higgins. Lance, Tua, I'm going Lance over Tua 1,000%. And Sony Michel over Javonte Williams, I'm going Sony over Javonte Williams. Singletary or Javonte is another close one, Sam. Good name, by the way, Samuel. My full name Samuel, actually, by the way, too. But I think I would probably go with Singletary. Singletary is going to touch the ball more than Javonte Williams, and he has a slightly worse matchup, but still a good matchup. Singletary's dominated the snaps in the last couple of weeks for the backfield for Buffalo. Deontay or Darrell Williams? Yeah, I'm going with Deontay Johnson there too. Moreau or Uzoma? I think Billy. I think it's Moreau. But neither guy's going to do well. Pick 2: Penny, Damian Harris, or Renfrow PPR. Yeah, probably in a PPR league. I think I'd go Penny and Renfrow. I think I'd go Penny and Renfro in a PPR league. Full PPR, Swift, Cooks, Penny. I think Swift, Cooks, and Penny. In a full PPR league, I think you go Cooks, man. I think Brandon Cooks has a really high ceiling. Should I start Jefferson or Antonio Brown? Yeah, it's Antonio Brown. It's Antonio Brown. Let me see my top 10 wide receivers. I might have Jefferson ranked ahead. Yeah, I do. I have 2 spots ahead. But if you're nervous about Jefferson, yeah, I mean, Antonio Brown's a perfect pivot. He's a perfect pivot. He is safe. The only risk for Antonio Brown is this ankle injury that popped up 2 days ago. Like, that is a risk. But he's like very close to like $1 million worth of incentives in his contract. He's playing the Jets, and Mike Evans is going to be on a snap count, and there's no Chris Godwin. So, I mean, he really is a pretty safe bet. All right, I got time for a few more questions here before we wrap up the stream. I'll make sure I show my top 10 rankings at every position too, because I won't be able to get to every single question. I do really appreciate the time, guys. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button before we wrap up. Deontay Johnson or Cooper? I'm going Deontay Johnson over Amari Cooper. I know Cooper had a big game last week, over 20 points, but I'm going Deontay. Help. Hunt, Ramondre, Van Jefferson, Gage, flex for the chip. Pick one PPR. Yeah, we can't trust Kareem Hunt. I think it's if it's a PPR league, honestly, I think it's Van Jefferson or Gage. It's Van Jefferson or Gage. I don't hate Van Jefferson. I would argue Gage is the safest. Van Jefferson has the higher ceiling, though. Gordon, Hunt, or Howard? Ty. Melvin Gordon revenge game, man. It's got to be Melvin Gordon. It's got to be Melvin Gordon revenge game against the Chargers, who also are one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. Thanks for getting me to this point. KJ Osborne or Jacoby Myers, then also Kyler or Trey. It's got to be Kyler over Trey. Let me pull my QB rankings one more time. There's 6 QBs I'm starting over Trey Lance, and Kyler Murray is definitely one of them. I'm definitely starting Myers over Osborne, too. I don't trust Osborne at all. We got Sean Mannion starting at quarterback, so we just can't trust him. If it was Kirk Cousins, I would definitely say Osborne, but it's not Kirk Cousins this week, so I'm not going with Osborne. All right, let me pull up my picks against the spread, answer a couple more questions, and then we are wrapping up. Waddle or Brandon Cooks? Yeah, I'm going Brandon Cooks over Jalen Waddle. Herbert or Burrow? It's got to be Herb. It's got to be Herb over Burrow. OBJ or Renfro PPR? Renfro's safer, Joe. Renfro's absolutely safer than Odell Beckham Jr., but Odell Beckham Jr. also gets to play the Ravens, which gives him such a high ceiling that I would go Odell Beckham Jr. I would go Odell Beckham Jr. Again, Renfro's safer with Darren Waller out, but it's super close, man. It's super close. Hey, Sam, thanks for helping me get to the championship. Ronald Jones, Zeke, Sony Michel, Saquon Barkley, and Swift. These are all good options. I think I would probably go with the first 3, though. I think I would go with the first 3 here. In a half PPR league, I think I'd go with the first 3. Michelle or Chubb? You can't bench Nick Chubb. Can't bench Nick Chubb. Packers or Cowboys defense? Definitely the Packers. The Cowboys defense against the Cardinals in what's projected to be the highest scoring game of the week. The Packers get to play Sean Mannion. You're deciding between a defense against Sean Mannion and defense against Kyler Murray. It's got to be the defense against Sean Mannion. It's got to be the Packers. Full PPR, Singletary or Carter? Yeah, I'm going Singletary. I like Carter. I actually think Carter could surprise people this week, but it's against the Bucs. Like, there's a reason to be nervous about Michael Carter this week. Ronald Jones, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Aaron Jones start 2. Yeah, it's got to be Ronald Jones and Aaron Jones. It has to be Ronald Jones and Aaron Jones. Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Chase Higgins, and A.J. Brown. Choose 4. So that means bench 1. Right? Bench 1. Yeah, I'd probably bench Higgins. I think I would bench Higgins. It's Higgins or Cooks. You're benching Higgins or Cooks. You're starting the other 300%. But I'd probably bench Higgins. Bears or Eagles D? Yeah, it's got to be Bears defense against the Giants. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Seriously, I appreciate it. Let's go win these fantasy football championships. Good luck this week. I will be back live during my normal times next week, Sunday morning, as usual. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and good luck today. Chase, for the final question of the day, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, or Dari. Has to be those first 2 guys. Got to go with Javonte Williams and DeAndre Swift. And Colts versus Miami, has to be the Colts. Has to be the Colts. I like the Colts, Jonathan Taylor stack a lot too this week. Guys, thanks so much for the time. That's it for the stream. Have a good Sunday and good luck in your fantasy football championships. I'll see you next week.